Pirates Full Level System, Chapter 701-720. Chapter 701 Draw Your Swords, Gentlemen. After all, the gorgeous sword light is just a mirror, and after it is broken, it disappears quietly. Hawkeye's sword is the crack in the mirror. The sword curtain came to an abrupt end, and along with the crisp collision of sword edges, a severed sword tip flew out from the place where the two were fighting, spun in the air for a while, and stuck straight in another place. The swordsman's long sword, about 1/5 of the top, was cut off by Hawkeye. Just took it, and the eagle eye was aimed at the opponent's weapon. The sword is in the man, the sword is dead, and the man is dead. In the real swordsmanship competition, this sentence is no joke. The swordsman's strength is all on the sword in his hand. As long as he has not reached the realm where everything is a sword, Jian Duan is the same as being disarmed. Impossible. My sword. The previously free and easy swordsman disappeared. His pale face revealed a little embarrassment. He froze in place, muttering in a low voice. In the end, the swordsman seemed to have lost his mind and rushed forward with the same swordsmanship as before. Stupid, if you don't have the certainty of winning, don't use the same swordsmanship twice in front of a swordsman. Didn't your master teach you this? Hawkeye said with disdain. The swordsman's mind couldn't think so much at the moment. He suddenly accelerated, when he was less than 5 meters away from Hawkeye. The distance between him and Hawkeye seemed to disappear. The next moment, the silver light of 683-man dance had eroded Hawkeye, and the corner of the swordsman's mouth couldn't help showing a successful smile. Jian Feng almost touched the corner of Hawkeye's clothes. The swordsman looked up at Hawkeye. He wanted to appreciate Hawkeye's panicked appearance. However, it didn't. In the eyes of the swordsman, there was only endless indifference and calmness. The pictures in the upper left and lower right corners of the big screen of the arena were frozen, and the expressions of the two were made into close-ups and placed there. This is the most direct comparison. Even people who don't know swords know that the game is now a winner. Hawkeye's left hand suddenly lifted, and he didn't know how he did it in the long sword curtain. Just like pressing the backward button, the sword curtain spread out by the swordsman quickly closed, turning into a single sword. Without the sword curtain, there is no change, and the long sword that was resisted became no threat at all. The short knife found the opportunity and cut in from the fracture. The swordsman's broken sword was broken into 2 pieces from the middle, and fell to the ground one after another, leaving only one bare hilt in the swordsman's hand. Things must not be left like this. Hawkeye intends to teach the swordsman a lesson he will never forget. Let me tell you today what a swordsman is. Hawkeye's sword changed its previous strength, and became quick. With the wave of the eagle eye, a stream of light that could not be seen swept around the swordsman's body. Long sleeves, accessories, hair accessories, etc., all the things that swordsmen used to wrap themselves were chopped off by eagle eyes, and the dress-like clothes were also turned into holes. The swordsman is better to be simple. Why do you dress yourself up so coquettishly? Seeing the swordsman's appearance at the moment, Hawkeye expressed his satisfaction. This is still Hawkeye's hand, and there is no longer the meaning of swordsmanship, and there is no such thing as mosaic on the big screen of the arena again. You are also worthy of swordsmanship, and your actions shame all swordsmen. After Hawkeye finished speaking, the punishment he gave the swordsman also arrived. It was a completely different sword move from Hawkeye's usual style, but it was very similar to the move the swordsman used just now, but Hawkeye cut out a lot of unnecessary things. Simple and direct, Jian points directly at the opponent's weakness, rather than pursuing a sense of beauty. The skin and flesh were neatly slashed open. After Hawkeye's move, the wound burst open at the same time. The wounds of different depths spread all over the swordsman's body, and blood flowed out from the wound. However, Hawkeye still has a lot of numbers. One is not fatal, and the other is not disabled. As for a few more wounds on the face, for men, more scars are more masculine. Well, Hawkeye was definitely intentional. Also, is the goddess something you can desecrate at will? At this moment, Hawkeye regained his original intention of deciding to beat the other party violently. A sword light pierced through Cheng Hong, and the air was smashed into a burst of sound. 40 meters of sword chi slashing people to understand. Hawkeye classmates, this is the rhythm of two heads if one word disagrees. MC was so frightened that he shouted, "Stay under the knife," but it turned out that it was just a false alarm. Hawkeye's last sword fell on the swordsman's head, and finally stopped on the swordsman's head. It's hard to imagine that the sword chi of 40 meters, with an aura that can pierce the sky, can coexist peacefully with the swordsman's head. The sword chi only took away all the hair on the swordsman's head, turning it into a Mediterranean. When Hawkeye cut the sword at close range, the swordsman lost consciousness. As Hawkeye retracted the sword held above his head, the swordsman fell straight down. The victory of this game belongs to the real swordsman. The voice of the master of ceremonies sounded, declaring Hawkeye's victory. The cheers of the audience sounded at the moment the result was announced, especially the male audience. They were also displeased with this sassy swordsman, and Eagle Eye really gave them a bad breath. However, these male audiences did not realize that Hawkeye's appearance is not comparable to ordinary people. After the swordsman was defeated, Hawkeye, who had both strength and beauty, successfully accepted those female fans. Therefore, the enemy of the class has not fallen, it has just been replaced. Of course, when the audience came back to their senses after venting their anger, they suddenly remembered something. Hey, I heard right, Hawkeye mentioned the goddess just now. What kind of eyes do eagles have? And the swordsman who understands people's clothes and swords well understands it. It's not an auditory hallucination, I heard it too. Foil is not allowed to blaspheme the goddess. Does he have any interest in the goddess? Gui Gui, this bastard, Foil swordsman, wouldn't want to use the swordsmanship on the goddess. Damn, I can't kill him. Hawkeye didn't know what happened in the auditorium, but this kind of discussion didn't just happen in the auditorium. After returning to the player lounge, Hawkeye found that many people's eyes had changed. Some are encouraging, some are vigilant, some are hostile, and there are many complex eyes that are hard to describe. What the hell are these? Those who won before don't have this kind of treatment. Hawkeye didn't realize what was wrong until Shanks and Beckman jokingly teased him. Talking too much will make you lose it. Hawkeye rarely speaks once, and it causes a lot of trouble. Hawkeye regretted dying at this moment, he would rather stab the swordsman just now with a sword. After thinking for a while, Hawkeye glanced at the people in the lounge, and simply declared war. Draw your swords, gentlemen, the goddess is mine. I'm not targeting anyone, I'm saying that everyone here is not allowed to blaspheme the goddess. Chapter 702 Dumb. After people choose to break the jar, they will really let themselves go. Chin Luo, who had been secretly observing other people in the lounge from the corner, was also stunned by Hawkeye's unrestrained. A pair of yellow-orange fish eyes opened wide, and if the people around him were not paying attention to him, they might have been exposed. Chin Luo couldn't imagine that the eagle eye in front of him would turn into that look later, with Seema's face all the year round, as if he was owed money by the whole world. Could this be the power of puberty hormones? However, Chin Luo still felt a little strange that this kind of thing happened to someone he knew. Considered a goddess by so many people, the future world's #1 swordsman is jealous of others because of her. Tisk tisk tisk, Chin Luo really wanted to know how his subordinate Tuyuya was feeling at this time. Chin Luo's mind was madly turning. Now he is playing the role of Fish Lao Zhang. He needs to pretend to be deaf and dumb, so he can only use his brain holes in his heart. If it weren't for the task of fighting for him, Chin Luo just wanted to grab a handful of melon seeds and sit and watch the actors and actresses of Calgary Love Story perform on stage. No matter how firm Hawkeye's determination is, the hatred he draws is firm. This situation can be regarded as eagle-eyed benevolence. Mahawk, there is something. I really think I am the world's #1 swordsman. I want to ask about the sword in Lao Su's hand. The blasphemous goddess, I think it is you who blasphemed the goddess. Don't pee and see what you are. When can you make decisions on behalf of the goddess? I've been wanting to beat you for a long time, but your face is so bad. Everyone's feedback was quite positive. There were more than 100 people in the lounge, and those who had ideas about Duoyu accounted for the fourth floor. Hawkeye received no less than 40 threats. These threats to Hawkeye are all farts. One-on-one, Hawkeye is absolutely not cowardly. But these people are also right about one thing, that is, Hawkeye also belongs to unrequited love, and he has no advantage over others. In addition to playing on behalf of Cherno, Hawkeye and Taiyu also had only a few chances to meet each other, and even fewer when they could talk. Don Quixote family had nothing to do with this matter, if Doflamingo had been too lazy to pay attention to such a childish declaration of war before. But who made the current Doflamingo completely a powder keg? It exploded at the touch of a touch, not to mention the eagle-eyed map cannon. Boy, I don't care what you are and what your goddess is. But you messed with me, you know. You'd better start praying now that you and your goddess don't touch me. This is not intimidation. Doflamingo is serious. He desperately needs a good quality sandbag to replace the furniture that can't help falling. Armed prosthetic users are relatively indifferent. They all come with powerful missions, and the focus is on competing for rankings. However, it can be seen from their eyes that their opinions are similar to Doflamingo's. As long as they can meet, they will definitely discount Hawkeye's legs. Hey everyone, calm down everyone, and Hawkeye, you are too excited, calm down quickly. Feeling the constant malice around him, Beckman quickly stood up to try to ease the atmosphere, and at the same time hinted Hawkeye not to mess around. Beckman was destined to be disappointed. His hint was received accurately by Hawkeye, but he didn't care at all. Why should you take back the trash talk you said on your own merits? You can't do anything in the lounge, and Hawkeye is using his eyes to defeat 100. Captain, you can't persuade this friend of yours. The difficulty of our game has inexplicably increased a few levels because of him. Beckman can only count on the captain who has the best relationship with Hawkeye to play a role. When Shanks heard the words, he nodded and said to Hawkeye, "Well done Hawkeye, don't be a coward, all those who don't agree will get down." After finishing speaking, Shanks also released some Conqueror Hockey to cheer for Hawkeye. Beckman rolled his eyes. He should have guessed that his unreliable captain would be blind. This level can be regarded as a provocation. Sure enough, after Shanks released Conqueror Hockey, the people surrounding them immediately stood a few meters away, intending to draw a clear line. The atmosphere in the lounge became very subtle, with a certain smell of gunpowder. But all of them chose restraint and did not really make trouble. The game also continued, and people kept leaving the lounge. Soon it was the turn of the Yu Lao Zhang group. Qin Luo stood up silently and walked out first. Everyone moved out of the way ahead of time. This kind of murderous name was knocked out by Orochimaru with a Zen stick, and it was a human-shaped killer. Doflamingo patted Corazone's shoulder, ordered, "Play better," and let Corazon play. To put it simply, a monster was arranged for him, and he wanted to play more beautifully, so why don't you play it yourself? Corazon frantically complained in his heart. In the end, Corazon nodded heavily. He suddenly didn't want to lose because of Hawkeye. I was used to listening to the trash talk and bickering among the players during the game, and when I encountered two dumb people at once, the audience was a bit unaccustomed to it, just like turning on the mute. Only the voice of the master of ceremonies proved that they were not deaf. Qin Luo and Corazon are also sympathetic to each other. They are not really dumb, but due to role-playing reasons, one is taciturn and the other cannot speak. Strength is the most primitive expression of strength. Qin Luo put the Zen stick on the ground, and with a squeak sound, some players tried their best to create only a few pits, and the ground of the arena was directly penetrated. Although the audience generally knows that the strength of Yu Lao Zhang belongs to the perverted level, at this moment they have a new understanding of the strength and the weight of the Zen stick. This Yu Lao Zhang will not be a Sea King. How can his opponent win? As Qin Luo pointed at Corazon and made a throat wipe, the pressure and the focus of the game came to Corazon. Everyone was guessing that Corazon would respond, and it was absolutely unexpected that Corazon had no plans to respond at all. He took every second to think about how to defeat Yu Laozang, which was an almost unsolvable problem. Corazon's silence disappointed the audience and the MC, but from another angle, they could understand Corazon's cowardice. Provoking a monster is absolutely joking with your own life. The countdown to the Master of Ceremonies ended, and Qin Luo announced the start of the game with a jump cut. Qin Luo, who descended from the sky, was wrapped around Fishman's huge body, and with the whistling wind pressure, the top of the Zen staff slammed into the place where Corazon was originally. One of the biggest cracks since the start of the game appeared on the field, turning 2/3 of the field into a spider web. Corazon, who was running, also stumbled and almost fell. Chapter 703 Welfare Bureau. Si Gui, Yu Laozang's playing style is more bold than before. There is no melodrama to watch. The MC's commentary is the only fun outside the fight, so the MC of ceremonies also explained it very hard. Now I'm worried about Corazon players, how about you? The destructive power of Yu Laozang does not need to be elaborated. No matter how wonderful it is, it will not have shocking visual effects. I believe that as long as you are not blind, you can understand it. The Master of Ceremonies was not optimistic about Corazon, and he was probably facing a sea king who came to land. The Master of Ceremonies has been more euphemistic. After all, he has to take care of the Corazon players and the mood of the colleagues around him. Especially who is responsible for the maintenance of the arena. Every crack in the arena represents burning funds, and Qin Luo's blow just knocked on his heart. There is also a more terrible point, the degree of damage to the stadium yesterday, and the need to work overnight to barely finish it. How to say that 2/3 of the stadium is scrapped now? Can it be solved by staying up late? Qin Luo didn't know the resentment of a certain staff member. If he knew, he would definitely scrap the other third of the arena. The most important thing for a family is to be neat and tidy. It would be inappropriate to leave a third of the stadium without renovations. The front end of the Zen staff sank deep into the ground, so that when Qin Luo pulled it out, he brought out a whole piece of stone. Qin Luo had to smash the positive stone into pieces. At this time, Corazon had regained his balance and distanced himself from Qin Luo. The strength of Yu Laozang is terrible, but his speed is an obvious disadvantage. It seems that the Corazon player is very clear about this, and actively distances himself from his opponent to gain more room for maneuvering. The flesh contains great strength, but the price is that the flexibility and speed are greatly reduced, and the legs with fins are not suitable for moving on land even if they are thick. Of course, the poor coordination between Qin Luo and Orochi Pill with this body is also one of the important reasons. Luo's teleportation when he was fighting in the past, this speed was simply a turtle's speed. Like a provocation, the two small pistols in Corazon's hand fired in succession, and the bullets hit Yu Laozang's skin one by one, and then they were bounced off. If the average gunman is already desperate at this time, and can't even shoot through the opponent's skin, what's the point of such a fight? You chase me. Sorry, not all gunners can be part-time marathon runners. In this case, the first one to die from exhaustion must not be the monster. Corazon showed a superb reloading technique, and the barrage fired by the two pistols never stopped. But the more this is, the more pitiful it is, isn't it? Even the Don Quixote family thinks that Corazon is struggling for Doflamingos. Play better, let alone the audience. I suddenly feel a little pitiful for this mute, let's cheer him up. Then you put the money on Yu Laozang. It has nothing to do with this. Yu Laozang will definitely win, but this overwhelming disparity in strength is too unfortunate for dumb. The big deal is that I will send him some bullets after winning the money. Oh roar, good idea. How much did the old man press? Hey, not much, only 300,000. Iron Welfare Bureau, can't overturn the car. Player Corazon's strategy is right. But unfortunately, as we've seen, his defense seems to be a little out of place with player Yu Laozang. Basically, they expressed regret for Corazon. Say MC, did you also suppress Yu Laozang? Qin Luo manipulated Yu Laozang's body, ignoring these bullets, and ran towards Kelisong in the face of the barrage. With every step, the cracked floor shuddered. Corazon looked at Yu Laozang, who was approaching, but did not show panic or start to withdraw. He had his plan. Moving shots would reduce accuracy, so he stayed where he was. After confirming that Yu Laozang let his guard down, Corazon replaced a row of red bullets into the magazine. These small movements Corazon concealed very well. His expression remained unchanged, and his movements were the same. Everyone was deceived by his head iron. He had long known that his opponent was Yu Laozang, so how could Corazon be unprepared at all? He was not prepared to win before, but now even if his hopes are small, he will fight for it. So from the beginning of the game, Corazon's eyes became extremely firm. The most important quality of a good gunslinger is calmness. Although the Corazon player did not show the same strength as Ben Beckman, he is undoubtedly a good gunslinger when facing a strong enemy. Desire to win, which many normal people cannot do. Under the words of the Master of Ceremonies, Corazon was described as a tragic figure who was disabled and determined. Maybe many people think that Corazon players should now use mobile shooting to fight their opponents instead of waiting to die in place. But Master of Ceremonies paused and continued, a really deadly bullet usually only takes one round. At the moment when the MC's voice fell, the bullet that hit Yu Laozang exploded something different. The bullet did not fly, but exploded into a pink powder. 3 bullets exploded in a row, and the poisonous mist engulfed Yu Laozang. Many fish and toad-like creatures have smooth, elastic skin or scales that insulate and bounce back most physical damage. However, this ability is not without solution, and a sharp slash can break through this defense. In addition, if the surface of these skins or scales loses moisture, this extremely strong physical immunity will also fail. These poisonous powders were prepared by Corazon for this purpose, and even the poisonous powders would cause secondary damage to Yu Laozang. Corazon must have spent a lot of time and effort not just to break defenses, otherwise, he might as well use poisonous bombs at the beginning of the game. There are a total of 4 0.3 bullets in the magazine. The first 3 poison powder bullets are modified from ordinary bullets, but the last one uses a special armor-piercing bullet. Wrapped in the energy of the Fruit of Silence, the armor-piercing bullet quietly broke through the poisonous fog. Corazon aimed at the eyes, and if it went well, the bullet would penetrate into the head and explode. Even sea kings cannot survive this dose of toxin. On the big screen of the arena, the slow motion of the armor-piercing projectile penetrating into the poisonous fog was played back. Combined with the commentary from the MC, the audience was able to figure out what just happened. "Did you hit?" the audience asked about the result. Corazon reloaded his bullets and stared at the poisonous fog that covered Yu Laozang. A roar that was not human-like broke the calm of the arena, and the poisonous mist was dispelled by the dancing of the Zen staff. Chapter 704 First Class Water Play. Yu Laozang, dyed pink by the poisonous mist, had a bullet stuck in his right eyelid. This was the thickest eyelid Corazon had ever seen, and he never thought his attack would be blocked in this way. Who can enter the knockout rounds? Who will be easily attacked by sneak attack? The abuse of vegetables also has the caution of abuse of vegetables. There are very few incidents of capsizes in the gutter. Of course, it is not ruled out that the players deliberately upset the food outside. But now it's a knockout round, and if you lose a match, you will lose the qualification to advance. Corazon was mentally prepared, but when he saw that the plan failed, he was still a little unwilling. But it doesn't matter, he still has plan B. The slight tingling provokes Qin Luo's nerves, and this long-lost feeling makes his blood a little restless. Without coming to the ground, Qin Luo's chest was burning with anger. No, this is not Qin Luo's own emotions, not to mention that even if Kayla Songbin is Qin Luo's informant, his half-hearted sneak attack is not enough to threaten him, let alone make him angry. Yes, it must be so. The source of anger is the instinct of the body of Yu Laozang. Attacking those who offended him, attacking those who invaded his territory, and attacking those he wanted to prey on, Yu Laozang's body preserves the savage instinct like a beast. This body is too evil. Qin Luo thought of the legendary magic weapon that would make users lose. Orochimaru wouldn't have come up with something like this by accident. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. Qin Luo quickly restrained his mind and ensured that he would not be affected by the emotions of this body again. With one foot stomped down, with Yu Laozang as the center, the ground sank half a meter, and countless stones burst out of the ground. As the Zen staff waved, these stones were like baseballs, and were smashed by Yu Laozang one by one at Corazon. Corazon ran and avoided embarrassedly. This time, he didn't dare to hold the earth in place, otherwise he would definitely be hit by a huge stone and smashed into flesh. The accurate head of the stone is not very good, but Qin Luo's goal has also been achieved. Corazon was driven to flee around, and he was too busy to take care of himself, so he had no chance to prepare for the smuggling. Yu Laozang's left hand slapped the large vat behind his back, the lid lifted into the sky, and the large pottery vat shattered inch by inch. This big tank is the first appearance since entering the knockout round. Everyone is curious about Yu Laozang's new equipment, and now they can finally see its true colors. Seawater, the salty, familiar smell wafting out of the broken vat made everyone realize that it was a whole vat of seawater. The splashing seawater did not flow to the ground with gravity, but turned into several turbulent currents, spinning back and forth around the fish that was always hiding beside him. For Yu Laozang's body, driving these seawater is like an instinct. The flowing seawater wraps Yu Laozang's body and turns into a light blue armor. In a short time, the pink poisonous powder was all washed away, and Yu Laozang's skin returned to its original appearance. Yu Laozang's powerful water control ability stunned countless people. In the world of pirates, it is not uncommon to play with fire and snakes, but few can play with water, let alone seawater. Doesn't this mean that Yu Laozang is the nemesis of all devil fruit power users? The excess seawater was gathered behind Yu Laozang, and the monstrous water potential was like a demon coming into the world. Even the people in the audience have to look up to see the whole picture of devil, which is like Corazon, who is on the arena like Yu Laozang. The pressure on him was definitely the heaviest at the moment. Yu Laozang opened a Zen wand in the direction of Corazon, and led by him, the water devil turned into a sea king and rushed towards Corazon. The ground along the way turned into a pile of rubble after being ravaged by the sea kings. Corazon rolled on the ground several times, barely avoiding the devouring of the sea kings. But the sea kings did not let him go, and the sea kings that failed to bite their prey immediately exploded and turned into turbulent currents. Corazon's back path was blocked as much as possible, and the water was still gathering towards him. For him, the sky was a flood. The only way out was to run forward, but Yu Laozang was waiting for him at the end of the road. This is what is often referred to as casting a net. The net is continuously tightened to compress the living space of the fish in the net until it is caught by the fisherman. Now Corazon is that fish. In the process of closing the net, Corazon's situation did not get better. The water cannons condensed between Yu Laozang's hands and threw them out. The power of the high-pressure water cannons was no less than that of ordinary cannonballs. Once hit by a water cannon head-on, comminuted fractures are the lightest. What's more, the water cannon is composed of seawater. As long as it is hit, Corazon will be in a desperate situation. The devil fruit users who watched this game frowned. After they put themselves in the role of Corazon, they found that they could do not much more than Corazon. Now that devil fruit is generally regarded as a high-level combat power, Yu Laozang is completely the natural enemy of devil fruit ability. They couldn't imagine how Yu Lao hid in his home court, calling for wind and rain. Unlike these bitter ha-has, Qin Luo was in a good mood at the moment. Aside from the weirdness of this body, the experience of this generation of fighting is quite good. Qin Luo has become a completely different character, and this experience is novel, especially when the character is still so powerful. Qin Luo is playing the game as a fully stealthy fighting game. Qin Luo has never used his own abilities. The moment he broke the water tank, This body seemed to have awakened a hidden skill, and naturally controlled the seawater. Halo Zhang's ability also opened the door to a new world for Qin Luo. Of water control ability, no one in this world can compare to Qin Luo, who has the ability of Overlord of the Sea, but before this ability was used most for teleportation, weather control and summoning of sea kings. Qin Luo never thought that this direct attack with seawater would be so sharp. Qin Luo thought about it. If there is a chance, he must turn into a front-loading washing machine and use the tsunami to help the marine headquarters and the holy place Mariajoy to wash well. After a lot of hard work, Corazon finally had to confront King He Lao Zhao, and the distance between them was less than 10 meters. Yu Laozhang stopped making water cannons, and the sea water around him turned into more than a dozen octopus tentacles, all grabbing at Corazon. Attacks of this intensity cannot be avoided by Corazon. A sense of powerlessness came to his heart, and Corazon's feet and waist were entangled in the tentacles of the sea, but he was not panic at all. A backpack-sized bomb with a preset time was thrown from Corazon's coat. Losing the ability of the Fruit of Silence, the piercing siren of the bomb resounded through the arena, which seemed so abrupt. The countdown to the bomb captured by the camera was displayed on the big screen of the arena. 6 is displayed in the ones digit representing the second. Chapter 705 Force a false alarm. I'm the master of ceremonies in charge of the knockout round, and I'm panicking right now. The moment he saw Corazon take out the bomb, the smile completely solidified on the MC's face. As Calgary's flagship product, most North Blue people are very familiar with the bomb thrown by Corazon. Although it was transformed into a time bomb, the crystal tube and liquid explosives that could not be covered were really unpretentious, simple and rude. MDZZ, can this thing be used in the competition? This series of explosives is called Little Naughty, but it's not naughty at all, and it's even a little scary. Known for no fortifications that can't be bombed, this arena apparently isn't even fortifications. This thing belongs to the contraband in the contraband, but it was successfully brought into the arena by Corazon. Do you think this is the negligence of the competition party? It is impossible to shake off the pot, but this is not the problem now. How can I move from the arena to a safe place within 6 seconds? What is the required speed, online, etc.? It is very urgent. The audience, who were shocked by the appearance of Little Naughty, realized that it was very bad at this moment. There was a mess in the auditorium. Some wanted to escape, some wanted to hide under chairs, and some waited silently to die. This is Corazon's Plan B, which was originally a means of perishing, but it was used in the ring. Was he really provoked by Hawkeye? What kind of reason and purpose are there, whether it is a distortion of human nature or a loss of morality? Welcome to today's program. Forget it, if you don't enter, run for your life first. Although there was no panic in the players' waiting room like in the audience, Doflamingo's sudden laughter seemed so harsh. Only Doflamingo can laugh at such a time in the whole world. He is sincerely happy. His younger brother, whom he dislikes and even doubts, proves at this moment that they all have the same crazy blood flowing through them. Corazon turned on the time bomb when he was caught in the net. With the Fruit of Silence to cover the sound, he successfully dropped the bomb and sent it to Izang's side without anyone noticing. In the final seconds, Corazon broke free from the sea with all his strength, pressing a button on his belt, and a metal hood popped out of his coat to cover it. Qin Luo has no time to take care of Corazon anymore, and there is not much time left for him. He didn't know the good reputation of this type of bomb in North Blue, but it wouldn't be too bad if it could be used by Corazon as a killer. At the call of Ailinzo, the seawater churns back and gathers around the bomb. The water polo was spinning at a high speed, and as it grew, it was lifted into the sky. 6 seconds passed in an instant. Bunch of rays of light burst out of the bomb, the spinning water polo stopped, and bright cracks filled. Immediately, the water polo shattered, and the visible shock wave generated by the explosion spread around the arena. Everything within a radius of 1,000 meters suffered disaster. In the city wall area, all the windows were shattered, and part of the roof was lifted off. Both the audience and the pedestrians were crushed to the ground by the shock wave. The sea water splashed down from the sky, and it was painful. The good news is that the bomb was high enough off the ground that the swirling water flow dampened most of the blast without causing too many casualties. The rest of the group scolded Corazon and offered sincere greetings to all the women in his family. "Hey Tenryubito, this one can have." I didn't expect that the Corazon player actually prepared such a killer. I was shocked. Fortunately, it was just a joke, it didn't matter. One false alarm, one false alarm. After confirming that the loss was not big, the MC and the people of the event team breathed out and began to comfort the frightened audience. At this time, the pot that is not strictly checked must be thrown away. Corazon is Doflamingo's younger brother, and it is impossible to detain him for guilt. This pot can't be left behind by the tournament team. Impossible, does not exist. But what a false alarm of God, do you think the audience is a fool? The MC had a wry smile at the corner of his mouth, and he could only bite the bullet and continue to divert the audience's attention. Let's take a look at the game. Affected by the explosion just now, the arena is now covered with a thick layer of water mist, and some people can't see it. Clear. Wait, the Corazon player seems to have fallen off the field. The big screen in the arena was shattered into pieces in the shock wave just now, but the event team had already prepared, and the temporary projection equipment was moved out. As soon as the screen turned, it appeared that Corazon was unconscious outside the ring. In the shock wave of the explosion, the two players were the first to be affected. Corazon was directly blown out of the field and passed out in a coma. Now as long as the state of Irizo is confirmed, the MC can end this troublesome game. Hai Laozang didn't make people wait for a long time. A pair of yellow eyes opened in the mist. The fog rolled, and Hai Laozang's Zen staff burst out of the fog, heading straight for Corazon, who was in a coma. If he got hit this time, Corazon would even have his feces inserted. This is a dead hand. Could Qin Luo be affected by Hai Laozang's mood again? Qin Luo was sober, but he knew better that his attack would not work. Before the wand hit Corazon, a few thin wires were tied to Corazon's body, dragging him away. The rod eventually overturned a whole piece of ground, but it didn't hurt Corazon in the slightest. Doflamingo blocked Corazon behind him, and followed the other officials of the Don Quixote family. "My brother has already lost, it's not good for your excellency to hold on to it." Then he gently threw the Zen stick back. Intends to rest in peace. It was rare for Doflamingo to explain the truth, mainly because he felt that Hai Laozang was a little tricky. Compared to Doflamingo's attitude towards Shanks just now, before he became the Four Emperors, Shanks really had no cards and could be looked down upon by the future Shichibukai. Hai Laozang didn't answer, stared at Doflamingo and the others for a while, and left the arena silently. If there is BGM at this time, Qin Luo's first choice for this song is the actor. Because keep it simple, the undercover way is simpler. I'll try my best to perform as it should with your performance. Qin Luo left without even waiting for the MC to announce the result. But it doesn't matter, since Corazon took out the bomb anyway, this is not a serious competition. Tournaments don't care about that either. After this game, the MC simply announced the intermission. On the one hand, the wounded were to be treated to repair the screen, and the other side of the event team checked the items carried by the players again. Little naughty, almost collapsed the tournament team. Their hearts are not good. If there is another one, they will die on the spot. Not to mention, in this investigation, there are quite a few people with contraband. Are you guys here to compete, or to start a war? Why don't you bring all the missiles with you? Kuzan's new mission. After the bad incident of Corazon, the match between the top 128 and the top 64 was abruptly postponed for a day. The event team was tougher than ever before, and the players' equipment would be checked again before the game started. Those who do not abide by the rules will be directly disqualified from the competition. Fortunately, Corazon lost, otherwise he would have the honor of being the first player to be disqualified by the tournament team after eating a red card. Qin Luo didn't watch the game in the next 2 days. The only variables in it were Kuzan and Orochimaru. He didn't think the result of the game could change. And the fact is the same as Chin Luo guessed. Calgary's casinos and gaming companies said they were very uncomfortable. If things went on like this, they would simply switch to a wealth management company and find them safe to invest. As a last resort, they resorted to the last trump card and guessed the winning time. I have to say that this move is really exciting. Even a guy like Shanks has become a traitor. It is said that Shanks let his opponent perform acrobatics for 20 minutes before sending him down, because he bought himself 20 minutes to win. But these have nothing to do with Chin Luo, he has more important things to arrange. Tell me about the current situation in Calgary. The helm of the Danethil family wakes up from the dream of ruling the North Blue and seeks protection from the impending disaster. The Kingdom of Germa, the Don Quixote family, and Marine are all looking for 633 Vegapunk. All three of them have proved that Vegapunk is in the hands of the Danosaur family, but only the Kingdom of Germa knows the exact location. Other forces have no idea but no strength, let alone mention it. Just in the past few days, the search for the Vegapunk Institute by several parties has gained new clues. These forces are all clever. Since they can't find any clues about Vegapunk, they will check it from other researchers in the institute. Speaking of which, the identity of the researcher who has just been found out is somewhat special. His name is Vinsmoke Judge. That Vinsmoke to the Kingdom of Germa. It is unclear how the clues about this person were excavated bit by bit, but all the evidence gathered together is enough to show that he is definitely a member of the Research Institute, or something more important. For more detailed information, intelligence officers from various forces even fought in Calgary's Mercenary Association, turning the century-old association building into ruins. In an abandoned shipyard, Kuzan's deputy in disguise walks alone into a half-built wooden boat. In front of him, Kuzan returned to his original appearance, lying on the table and playing with his prosthetic leg props. Not being followed, Kuzan asked. Kuzan's lieutenant took off his camouflage cloak and said confidently, "Don't worry, Admiral. Calgary is full of guys in this outfit now, and no one will notice me." There is a sense of sarcasm in the words. Isn't that right? With the collapse of the Mercenary Association building, all kinds of ghosts and snakes came out. Only half of the people on the street were pedestrians, and the rest were all out intelligence mongers and warmongers. But thanks to these people, things have finally progressed. This is given to me by the CP people. Kuzan's adjutant put two photos in front of Kuzan. This is, Kuzan asked suspiciously. Vinsmoke Judge, who has been identified as the son of old Vinsmoke in the Kingdom of Germa, is also an official researcher in the Vegapunk Research Institute. He disappeared for almost the same time as Vegapunk. But according to the informant, the old Vinsmoke suddenly disappeared some time ago. Mentioned his son. Said this, Kuzan's deputy paused, rubbed his chin and said, "We suspect that Vinsmoke Judge has a special way to communicate with the outside world." No, the CP member seems to be quite sure about it. Kuzan was also a little surprised for a while. The information brought by his deputy was not good news for Marine. What about this one? Kuzan pointed to another photo. Kuzan's deputy said without hesitation, "A mercenary, a special kind of mercenary." Up this photo involuntarily, Kuzan had a hunch that his new mission was definitely related to this mercenary. Like pouring beans, Kuzan's deputy told everything he knew about the mercenary. Beta the Ratman, the one with the ability of the rat fruit. Vinsmoke Judge hired him before he disappeared, and then lost the news, but just after the North Blue Fleet accident, he appeared in the Kingdom of Germa, and recently is also active in Calgary. The Battle of the Soldier Association is about this man. Quote, "Any task that is classified as confidential will be left behind once it is accepted in the Mercenary Association. What each faction wants to figure out is nothing more than the ability of the Ratman Beta, and the quests he accepts are also his whereabouts." The collapse of the Mercenary Association building was beyond the expectations of all intelligence personnel, and it also buried the secret completely. Who the hell is doing this, and how is it good for him? Everyone invariably locked the Vinsmoke family. There are not many forces in North Blue that can send the Mercenary Association to heaven. Hee, it's really a good calculation, old Vinsmoke. On the one hand, we formed an alliance with us, and on the other hand, we arranged everything a few years ago. When we Marine are fools. As for the Kingdom of Germa, does the Kingdom of Vegapunk know about Vegapunk? Location, does this kind of thing still need to be discussed? Kuzan asked. You want to inquire about Germa's plans? His deputy shook his head and took out another photo. Kuzan was stunned for a moment. There is still a story to tell. Is it so twists and turns? Can you finish it all at once? This time Kuzan's deputy didn't ask him to wait any longer, and Kuzan also knew the person in the photo. Doflamingo is marked in Marine as a being that requires special attention. With a special bloodline and an extremely evil heart, he is also the real culprit that Kuzan found out to destroy the North Blue Fleet and Marine base. The Don Quixote family is also looking for Vegapunk, and there is information that the Ratman Beta has recently appeared in his territory. The secret order from Sengoku-sama is to find this Ratman Beta and find Vegapunk. The worst plan is not to let Vegapunk fall into Doflamingo's hands. Kuzan's deputy said in a low voice, and at the same time handed a piece of information in his arms to Kuzan. Kuzan didn't expect that Sengoku would give the order directly, but since it was a secret order, only Sengoku, him, and his deputy would know the order. Kuzan nodded solemnly. Marshal Sengoku said that the source of this information is very special, please burn it after reading it. Kuzan's deputy finished his last exhortation, put on a disguise and quietly left the shipyard. Kuzan could probably guess the source of the information, the disciple of Marshal Sengoku who disappeared with the file, which made Kuzan's expression more cautious. Chapter 707 Filming of the First Act. Sengoku and Kuzan are very grateful to Corazon for being able to send back such an important message at a critical moment, while at the same time worrying for his safety. And at this time, what is the situation of Corazon? In fact, Corazon's situation is much better now. His guardian, Lao Ji died, and Chin Luo's perfect assist also helped Doflamingo begin to believe in his younger brother. The job of spreading the news was not difficult for Corazon at this time. At the exit of an alley, Corazon leaned against the wall, the cigarette in his mouth gleaming faintly. The message was sent. In the dark alley, Tayuya's voice sounded. She hid in the darkness, and the ninja's stealth ability was absolutely invincible in this environment. The silence fruit with Corazon eliminated the sound, and the members of the surrounding Don Quixote family walked around, but did not notice that there was one more person here. In the whole picture, there is only Corazon smoking a cigarette in silence. This woman is not simple, any goddess, any swordsman, is just a corner of her iceberg. Corazon knew this well, but he couldn't help but fall into that fascination. In the days when he was an undercover agent, being able to communicate with Tayuya became one of the few happy moments for him. So when Duoyu also came with Chin Luo's mission, Corazon agreed without hesitation. But Chin Luo didn't feel sorry for him. This news is very valuable to Marine. At most, he used Marine to cheat the Don Quixote family. Isn't this what Corazon wants? Besides, Beta the Rat Man did appear on the Don Quixote family's territory, at Chin Luo's request. Let's just say, with Ratman Beta's ability and alertness, can he still be found? Everything is arranged. Of course, Kuzan Admiral's side is about to start taking action. Isn't this under your surveillance? Corazon's answer was a little irritated, which made Taiyu also a little dumbfounded. Immediately, Duoyu also chuckled and said, "It's not my turn to be in charge of monitoring the prospective Admiral Kuzan, I just need to complete my task. By the way, the boss asked me to tell you, be careful next time, better find a reason to leave Calgary first." Quote. Corazon was startled and choked on the smoke, but he managed his expression immediately. "You also want to attack the Don Quixote family?" "No, if it's just Marine and you, I don't need to take refuge." "And a third party." At the end, Corazone's lowered eyes shone brightly. Smart. Corazone's quick thinking deserved to Yuya's praise. According to Chin Luo's layout, it is very likely that there will be a multi-party melee in the end, and the Don Quixote family who got Vegapunk will definitely become the enemy of all the forces. Which force it would be? The information in Corazone's mind was constantly being dug out, and the forces flashed past one by one. When he couldn't figure it out and wanted to ask to Yuya, he realized that the other party had already left. Corazon cigarette butts, said with a wry smile, forget it. It was impossible to leave when he left, and Corazon felt that this was an opportunity to really break into the Don Quixote family. Calgary's workers' quarter represents darkness and chaos, a gathering place for gangsters and arms dealers. But do civilian areas necessarily belong to civilians? Actually not. There is such a street, under the calm ground, is the holy land of the black industry. You can't let a rich man go to a dirty place like the workers' quarter to gamble for money, and the service must be attentive. Chin Luo changed his appearance, followed Kuzan from a distance, and walked into a watch shop. What kind of watch do customers need? The enthusiastic shopkeeper asked Chin Luo. Chin Luo ignored it and pushed open the small door directly into the back room. The owner did not stop it, as if nothing was seen. Yo, here comes another face, do you know the rules, boy? There is a mine elevator in the room behind the watch shop, and two fierce big men are guarding there. This is one of the entrances to Calgary's underworld, and there are many other passages like this. Chin Luo took out a strange black bottle cap and threw out a few gold coins at the same time. It was not the first time he came here. I didn't see it, I'm still a member. Bailey, who accepted Chin Luo, the two big men also acted. After talking to the phone bug in their hands, the elevator slowly rose. When Chin Luo came to the underground black market, Kuzan hadn't gone far. People who come to the black market for the first time will be dumbfounded. It seems that the place is so chaotic that they can't even tell the direction. Kuzan walked through the black market, casinos, black boxing venues, killer associations and other places one after another before heading towards the auction where the Ratman beta appeared in the intelligence. Alertness is alert enough, but who are you playing this for? Chin Luo complained in his heart, he didn't think Kuzan could find his stocking. Chin Luo took out a phone bug and said, hello, are you ready? The target is passing. On the other end of the phone bug, Beta the Rat Man is on standby, along with Beckman and Hawkeye. Without a match, they were all called by Chin Luo to help. Today is the first performance of the actor Kuzan's new play, it must go well. 0. The forces in this dungeon are more complicated, and he does not belong to any one force. Just like the backstage boss of the Killer Guild is the Kingdom of Germa, every area here has a master. And this auction house belongs to the Don Quixote family, so there is nothing wrong with calling the auction house their turf. The information Kuzan got, Beta the Rat Man would sneak to the auction house every 3 days at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The location of the destination, and the appearance is different each time, but there is one thing, there is a faint smell of sewer on his body. A rat in the sewer. Kuzan lay in ambush near the auction house, with a slight sarcasm in his mouth. With the help of the hints in the intelligence, Kuzan quickly locked on the target wearing a tuxedo. Same time, Kuzan also discovered one thing, he was not the only one staring at the target, and the two shrinking guys were also looking at the target across the crowd. Kuzan's face darkened. It seemed that Marine and the world government were not the only ones who got clues from the Mercenary Association. No. If you are invited to know what Kuzan thinks, you will definitely tell him that your information is absolutely exclusive. These two are just here to make soy sauce, and they belong to the supporting roles who only appear in one scene. The person in charge of the auction house came out and warmly welcomed Beta the Rat Man. At this moment, Kuzan was convinced of the news that Beta the Rat Man had joined the Don Quixote family. But in fact, Kuzan would never know that the reason for the enthusiasm of the person in charge is just because the Rat Man has always been an important customer for them, and that's it. Chapter 708. Are you Meow Fang? Now that everything is ready, one of your letting actors said that they want to change the script. Have you asked other people's opinions? Beckman and Hawkeye, who were invited to help, were prepared for this situation. The two of them looked at each other and quickly approached the Rat Man Beta from left to right. According to the plan, if Kuzan shows amazing patience, they will force Kuzan out. At the beginning, they lowered their breath, exposed their position to Kuzan, and made a scene of jumping over the wall and arresting people on the spot. In Kuzan's eyes, the two peers he had identified, Beard and Cyclops, were surrounding his target. Cursing, damn, secretly, Kuzan also got closer to the Rat Man Beta. Where are you going, my friend? Beckman's one-eyed dragon stood in front of the Rat Man, holding a machete commonly used by pirates. The whiskers in Hawkeye's costume were stuck behind the Rat Man. The different atmosphere quickly separated the crowd, and the good ones made room for them to fight. Fights and dead people are the norm in the dungeons of the black industry. It is said that as long as you fight fast enough and run in time, the black market patrol here will not be able to catch you. Exciting the underground boxing matches, it is not as good as the real PK. I wish I didn't provoke the two of them, said the Rat Man warily, and he made the encounter appear as real as possible. It's funny, are you trying to tell me reason in this place? Worrying that Hawkeye would be exposed as soon as he spoke, all the lines were arranged for Beckman. His words caused laughter from the good people around. Don't struggle, it took a lot of effort to find you. Our boss wants to see you. With that, Beckman and Hawkeye kept getting closer. From an angle that outsiders can't see, Beckman and the Rat Man made eye contact, and everything went according to rehearsal. Facing the pressure, the Rat Man remained motionless, and the good people around were immediately bored. The Rat Man put his hand into his pocket and said, I agree. Until then, I'll show you a treasure. Don't try to play tricks, warned Beckman. He and Hawkeye's one-eyed bearded duo became cautious, holding their weapons across their chests. There are dramas, the rhythm of taking out the big baby is too familiar, and the onlookers show surprise eyes. The only one with a disappointed expression here was Kuzan. Don't do anything, bro, I'll save you from the trouble later. Kuzan prayed silently in his heart. In the end, Kuzan's thoughts could not be conveyed to the Rat Man Beta's heart, or it was conveyed to the other party who deliberately turned a blind eye. Rat Man Beta took out a flashbang from his pocket and threw it into the air. The most important thing was that the flashbang switch had been peeled off in his pocket. So the moment the flashbang appeared and lifted off, white light filled the entire dungeon. This time, it wasn't just Beckman and Hawkeye who were hit. The flashbang blinded a block of people, including Kuzan. Bastard, you're dead. Ah, my eyes, which beast is flickering your grandfather and come out to fight? Asshole. The many curses around him did not affect the Rat Man Beta. He took out a grenade from his arms and threw it at Beckman's one-eyed dragon. He rolled on the spot by himself and drilled into the gap under the crowd. You and his Meow Fang, aiming at the seam. This is too real. If Chin Luo didn't know that all this was planned, he would have praised Beta of the Rat Man. The two lightning bolts that flow through the clouds and the water, as well as the escape method of drilling when you see people, really haven't slept. Kuzan also had a weird look on his face. He had not recovered from his blindness, but his locked breath showed that Beta the Rat Man was fleeing fast. The grenade was blasted into the air by Beckman's machete, and the scattered shrapnel caused the people in the circle to suffer again. At the same time, the huge explosion also attracted Doflamingo and others who were upstairs in the auction house. What happened? Under questioning, Doflamingo got an answer from his subordinates, and at the same time he watched Beta, the escaping Ratman, through the window. Those who dare to throw grenades in black market dungeons are also a wonderful person. Why, isn't this Earl of Mills? The head of the auction house, who was reporting to Doflamingo, said suddenly. Seeing that Doflamingo was looking at him, the person in charge quickly explained that he was a frequent visitor to the auction house. But at this moment, among the two people chasing the Rat Man Beta, the bearded man suddenly shouted, "Rat man, you can't escape." The one-eyed dragon beside him quickly covered his companion's mouth like a thunderbolt. The bearded man hurriedly said again, "I mean a guy like a mouse, you can't escape. Aren't you here without 300 taels of silver?" Kuzan covered his face and was speechless. He had a hunch that the news could not be hidden. The word, "rat man," made Doflamingo wonder, and he felt that he had heard these two words recently. The way, Doflamingo said to the head of the auction house, "This person is buying something." Despite his doubts, the person in charge of 5.7 explained everything he knew. It's just some rare materials, like. Ha ha ha, it's finally transported. Let's go grab our guests first. After listening to the report, Doflamingo laughed loudly, and a group of people ejected from the window. Doflamingo's speed is extremely fast, and he used the wire to hang himself from the top of the dungeon to narrow the distance with the rat man Beta. 3 bullets shot out of his hands, aimed at Beta the rat man and the Hawkeye duo of Beckman, who were chasing him. Kuzan discovered Doflamingo for the first time, but in his eyes, Doflamingo came to save his collaborator. If Doflamingo gets his way, don't even think about catching Ratman Beta. So, Kuzan couldn't hide it either. Chapter 709 Since it doesn't matter. This time, Kuzan considered the situation where he needed to fight. So Kuzan used the image of the smoothie owner without worrying about revealing another identity. The temperature plummeted, the bullet line froze in the air, and an icicle stabbed diagonally from the crowd, blocking the front of Doflamingo. Doflamingo didn't have the slightest idea of slowing down. He stuck a thin thread on the icicle, and he was going to go around by the icicle. At this time, 5 icicles extended from the icicle, winding towards Doflamingo like vines. The intractable ice ridges forced Doflamingo to stop and deal with these troublesome things first. Yo, isn't this the missing marine perspective, Admiral Kuzan? As Doflamingo's words fell, Kuzan condensed from the icicle. I said, Admiral, your customer left something in my shop. I'm in a hurry to deliver it to him, could you please make way? Doflamingo flashed and his body split in two. Doflamingo and his line clones broke through in both directions, one left and one right. Doflamingo, I have something to ask you, you'd better stay. Icicle shattered, an ice throne held high, and the ice block gushed 19 from Kuzan's hands. The wave of ice blocked the 2 Doflamingos like a wall. Then it's up to you. Being blocked many times, Doflamingo's voice was impatient. Super Strike Whip. 2 Doflamingos on the left and the right move in the same way. Dozens of nearly transparent thin silk threads are sprayed from the palms, rolled together and turned into thick thread columns, slashing in the huge waves of ice above. In front of the sharp thread, the ice is like tofu, and it is easy to cut. Kuzan frowned. He misestimated Doflamingo's means, and the attack was sharper than expected. The energy manifested in Kuzan's hands became more turbulent, and larger ice waves emerged from behind the cut ice, freezing the previous ice waves together with Doflamingo's whip. Doflamingo is not surprised at all. He seems to have known that Kuzan will choose to increase his efforts and continue to arrange him with ice waves. So the 2 Doflamingos, with their empty palms ready for the next Super Strike Whip, swept towards Kuzan's body. If someone wants to stop him, then kill him. This is Doflamingo's thinking. Breakthrough or something does not exist at all. Kuzan was cut cleanly into a pile of shredded ice block by 2 whiplashes. Cut. Doflamingo grunted uncomfortably, shifting his gaze to the frozen throne. Was just chopped up was just Kuzan's ice sculpture, and his body was already sitting on the ice throne at some point. Ice Age. Sitting on the throne of ice, Kuzan is the king of ice and snow, and he summons the power of ice to his advantage. 2 ice tornadoes rose from under the 2 Doflamingos, trying to freeze everything in them. As a last resort, Doflamingo played the ice block game with a new whip and 2 ice tornadoes. One is responsible for cutting, the other is vigorously growing. Kuzan doesn't plan to escalate the fight with Doflamingo either, so it's good to maintain his Jiaozuo state. Hold Doflamingo, wait for Ratman Beta to run away, and use the ice block mark on him to follow him. But you have to know, this is a black market dungeon, it is Doflamingo's territory, but he has his staff. A few minutes of fighting was enough for Doflamingo's men to figure out their young master's goal and come to support. Young master, let's help you. Kill this quasi-admiral, since he's all sent to the door. Torapal, Diamante and other people shouted and approached quickly. No, leave it to me here, you guys go after him. Doflamingo stopped his men. How could Kuzan be so easy to take down? In contrast, it is more important to catch the rat man Beta. When Doflamingo's men heard it, they immediately understood, and led a group of people to bypass Kuzan and run in the direction where the rat man Beta escaped. Fate is so full of comedy, this time Kuzan and Doflamingo's roles reversed, but this time it was Kuzan who was stopped. That brother, I was just joking. Kuzan touched his nose and said with a wry smile. Can you pretend nothing happened? Kuzan winked at Doflamingo. Ha ha, Doflamingo replied. Thin threads dangled from the top of the dungeon, hanging around Kuzan, woven automatically in 2s and 3s. At least a dozen cobweb walls firmly locked all Kuzan's escape routes. What do you think? It just so happens that I also have information and I am willing to report it to prospective admiral. I have clues about the Marine Fleet tragedy. I wonder if Lord Admiral is willing to listen to me, a serious businessman. You, serious businessman, I bother. If Doflamingo was a serious businessman, then there would be no black businessman in this world. The murderer of the North Blue Fleet massacre is your Don Quixote family. I still need a clue, but the murderer offered it. Why don't you or I don't do anything, let me go in 5 minutes. Kuzan had no idea about Doflamingo's clues, and he didn't plan to continue, so he simply proposed a truce. Doflamingo didn't refuse. In his opinion 5 minutes was enough time for his subordinates to turn over the entire dungeon. But 743 Flamenco is destined to be disappointed this time. He seems to have some misunderstandings about the escapability of Ratman Beta. This is a long-distance runner that can run away from Chin Luo's hands. 5 minutes came. Doflamingo and Kuzan each took back their ice and line, leaving one left and one right. Just like that sentence, since everyone has no ability, then go their own way. While Kuzan and Doflamingo were entangled, Beckman and Hawkeye took the opportunity to disappear into the crowd. So at this moment, the only people who were really looking for Ratman Beta are the Don Quixote family. Doflamingo contacted his subordinates, and a few minutes later, he saw a group of subordinates waiting there in the bathroom of the casino. The people in the casino are inexplicable. Those who don't know the situation are wondering how the Don Quixote family went to the bakery in the casino, and the package was the bathroom. Could it be that those guys in the Don Quixote family have awakened to special tastes? No, this is a very heavy guess. Doflamingo's front foot just arrived, and Kuzan wasn't too late. After redressing, he sneaked into the casino and played dice in the area closest to the toilet. Kuzan's ice mark shows that Beta the Rat Man is in the bathroom. A robotic bug slipped from Kuzan's hand, entered the bathroom from above the ceiling, and transmitted the sound to him. Chapter 710 Mousetrap. I just want to know, what about people? Doflamingo glanced at his circle of men, his words tinged with anger. In 5 minutes, he could not catch a single mercenary, and this was still his own territory. Are all the people under him rubbish? Torapal and Diamante looked at each other and pushed the head of the auction house out. The anger of the young master is not so easy to deal with, and at this time, a scapegoat is needed. The person in charge of the auction house didn't expect that he would be pushed out like this. His legs softened, and he almost fell to the ground. Young master, we blocked the target. But when we came in, we couldn't find anyone. We just found some things on the target, said the person in charge of the auction house tremblingly. The bathroom looked like it had been rummaged, and the clothes left by Beta the Rat Man was on the floor of the bathroom, which proved to some extent that the person in charge of the auction house was not lying. But that's not the point. Doflamingo wants people, not a bunch of clothes. Strange, this rat man seems to be hiding from Doflamingo, aren't they cooperating? Kuzan temporarily suppressed the doubts in his heart. Whether it was a breakup or another secret, he couldn't figure it out with just such a clue. On the other side, the bathroom of the casino was almost dug 3 feet into the ground. After confirming that there were no secret passages and secret rooms, the Don Quixote family stopped, but they seemed to have found some clues in the things left by Beta the Rat Man. Doflamingo's exaggerated laughter can be heard by Kuzan even without a wiretapping device. The secret is there, close at hand but out of reach. It seemed that there were countless dogs' tail grass scratching in Kuzan's heart, which made him extremely uncomfortable. Resisting the urge to rob Doflamingo, Kuzan watched the Don Quixote family go away. The door of the casino's bathroom was put up with a "under maintenance" sign. In order to find the non-existent secret room, the entire bathroom was laid down by the Don Quixote family and could no longer be used. Half an hour after the Don Quixote family left, a naked man suddenly appeared in the bathroom. Well, these guys are too dangerous, and I won't find them to cooperate again next time. Beta the Rat Man sighed sincerely with a look of the rest of his life. Using the sewers of the bathroom, Beta the Rat Man had been hiding under the casino until the Don Quixote family left for half an hour before he dared to show up. In the devastated bathroom, Rat Man Beta picked up a piece of the wall that had been knocked down, smashed one of the tiles, and a glass test tube the size of half an arm appeared in it. At this moment, an unfamiliar voice rang in the ears of the Rat Man Beta. "You waited so long to get this thing back, it must be important." The Rat Man reacted immediately, regardless of the glass test tube he was about to get, and rolled away from the side of his body, avoiding a spreading ice. Kuzan appeared at the door of the bathroom, and ice froze the door behind him along with the wall. After Doflamingo left with his men, Kuzan discovered a strange thing, that the mark he made didn't go with him. Does that mean that Beta the Rat Man hasn't left? Kuzan's guess was right, and Beta the Rat Man hides from being discovered with a special kind of peculiarity. So when the marker came alive, Kuzan immediately burst into the bathroom. So not only did I see the disappearing Rat Man, but also something with spicy eyes. "Do you see me hanging?" "No, I'm dizzy." If he had a choice, Kuzan would let the Rat Man put on some clothes before talking to him, but reason told him it was better to get the glass test tube in his hand first. "I'm curious, who are you working with, the Vinsmoke family or the Don Quixote family?" Kuzan said to the Rat Man after taking the test tube in his hand. The Rat Man said nothing. Kuzan continued, "Don't be silent, let's talk, maybe I'll pay you back this thing as soon as I'm happy." Does Marine get intelligence this way now? Facing the Rat Man's irony, Kuzan dismissed it. At least it works. Your partnership with the Vinsmoke and Don Quixote families doesn't seem as close as it seems. There's nothing strange about it, the only one who can be trusted is always yourself. Kuzan nodded in agreement. He finally understood the mind of the Rat Man Beta. This is to invest in multiple lines to maximize the benefits. If this is the case, maybe it can be manipulated. With a flash of eyes, Kuzan has a clear understanding in his heart. Since you're looking for a suitable buyer, consider our Marine. They can give you a lot of Marine. Kuzan said. Rat Man Beta nodded solemnly, his eyes kept on the glass test tube. It can be considered, but before that, you give me what you have in your hand. Kuzan probably didn't expect the Rat Man to agree so readily, and was a little speechless for a while. What's the matter, is there no sincerity at all? The Rat Man urged. I'm suddenly a little curious about what is so important. Can't you explain it to me? No comment. Rejected by the Rat Man, Kuzan scratched his head in annoyance. Okay, here it is. Saying that, Kuzan made a move to throw. Rat Man Beta also entered a state of alert at the same time. The glass test tube left his hand, and at the same time, 3 ice ridges spread from 3 directions, one to protect the glass test tube, the other to block the back way for the rat man to escape, and the last one pointed directly at the rat man to freeze him into an ice sculpture. This is the mouse trap that Kuzan carefully prepared for him. But what the rat man did next made Kuzan dumbfounded. As he alerted the glass test tube, the rat man turned, shrunken, and rushed down the drain. Several actions were completed in one go, and they ran without a shadow in an instant. Kuzan didn't even have time to react, and the mouse trap became a joke. At this time, how could Kuzan not know that he was being tricked? When the glass test tube fell into his hands, the rat man did not intend to come back. The two never trusted each other from the start. Kuzan plans to use the glass test tube to catch Beta the ratman. On the other hand, the other party is just taking the plan, and the surface cooperates with a wave, but in fact, the 36 plan is the best plan. The distance between the two quickly widened, and as the mark was removed, Kuzan completely lost track of the rat man. There was a look of helplessness on the corner of his mouth, but it was not nothing. Ratman Beta's emphasis on this glass test tube is not fake, it must be something very important. Apart from the disappearing rat man, Kuzan is also concerned about one thing. What secret did Doflamingo get from Beta's clothing? Kuzan was so curious that he felt the need to pry. Chapter 711 You Won't Buy Me to Win. The escaped ratman Beta still had lingering fears, although everything was arranged. But that's Marine Admiral, even if there is an accurate word, it was an unimaginable big man in the past. By Kuzan, Beta the rat man's heart was really stuck in his throat. If it wasn't for knowing that Chin Luo was nearby, Beta wouldn't have the confidence to play against Kuzan. After a round trip, Beta the rat man changed his attire and headed to the agreed meeting in place. The commotion just now has not completely subsided, and patrols can be seen everywhere on the streets of the underground city black market. Carefully avoiding these search teams, the rat man met Chin Luo and the three in a private bar. It's hard work. No flaws are revealed? Chin Luo asked. Of course not. The rat man hurriedly shook his head and retold the scene just now, thinking that he had brought his acting skills to the extreme. Speaking of flaws, the rat man actually has a bit of an objection. Boss, you should have told me about Admiral's marking on me in advance. Rat man Beta said resentfully. It's not very good. You don't need to arrange the scene where Kuzan meets you. It saves a lot of trouble. Chin Luo, the 253 directors, did not have any awareness of respecting the script. What is the temporary modification of the script? The integration of the two plays can be done at your fingertips. Even the actors were told that the script had changed when they came on stage. Okay, what a shit. Ratman Beta frantically complained about the unreliability of his boss, but in the end he chose to swallow the bitter fruit himself. The other party is a boss, and how the film is filmed ultimately depends on the boss's arrangement, and the contract of selling oneself signed. Even if you cry, you have to fulfill it. Originally, Chin Luo and the others had to get together to arrange the next stage, but Kuzan's unexpected move completed this part ahead of schedule. The four of them simply passed the time with small talk. Among them, Beckman asked, is the content in the test tube very important? So it is cheaper. Marine is not very good. With a strong intuition, Beckman instinctively perceives the importance of what is in the test tube. As a pirate, Beckman always felt strange to hand over such a crucial thing to Marine. I can't bear the child and can't catch the wolf. Only after the taste of blood will these vicious dogs fight more fiercely for the bones behind. And that stabilizer is just a defective product of someone's failure to copy. First hope Marine's research will not be caused by this. What's wrong? Although he said that, the gloating expression on Chin Luo's face revealed his true thoughts. This person is also very bad, and his heart is very dirty, but Beckman has a feeling that a hero sees the same thing. It's the best feeling to cheat people, especially when the object is still Marine. What happened in the black market dungeon couldn't be concealed at all. Hawkeye's voice was so sincere that it revealed his true feelings, not to mention that the killer guild run by the Vinsmoke family was also in the dungeon. By old Vinsmoke as soon as he returned to Germa's kingdom to put it on. It's really not easy to get away from those guys in Don Quixote. You haven't revealed any secrets that are not good for the kingdom of Germa. As soon as he came up, the rat man faced the beating of the old Vinsmoke. The terrified look on the ratman's face and the hasty explanation were what the old Vinsmoke expected. What happened? The old Vinsmoke has already learned through intelligence that this old man is not an existence willing to listen to others' explanations. He will only block your mouth with the muzzle of a gun. If Doflamingo brought back people instead of clothes, the rat man would turn into a corpse on his way to see old Vinsmoke. Either the rat man's abilities are irreplaceable, or the plan is just at a critical stage. In his prudence, the old Vinsmoke might have dealt with the rat man directly, but the current situation made it impossible for him to do so. I don't blame you for this. The accident of the mercenary union is entirely a clue left by Judge's carelessness. You are the one who was dragged into the water. As compensation, the $500,000 Bailey was given to you by me personally. I know you are still outside. There's another deal going on. I'm not against it, but I hope you'll put it aside for now and do your best as judge. When the wind changed, the old Vinsmoke comforted and drew Beta the rat man. Is this the so-called hit a stick to a red date? Rat man Beta is really haha in his heart. 500,000 Bailey is a very attractive number for mercenaries. If it was placed in the past, the rat man Beta would have been bought. But it's different now. This amount of money is not enough for Orochimaru to buy a test material. How could he be moved? Ratman Beta pretended to be happy and thanked his employer for his generosity. Old Vinsmoke also played the role of a conscientious boss, raising his salary one by one. Both of them are acting in a pretentious manner, and no one loses in their acting skills. In the conversation that followed, the old Vinsmoke arranged many tasks for the Ratman Beta one after another. It is to sneak into the research institute with explosives, and it is also to detect the defense system of the research institute. This kind of task was enough for the previous Ratman Beta to be busy for a while, and now he was pushed to him and asked him to complete it quickly. The Ratman subconsciously felt that the old Vinsmoke was in a hurry, and he was speeding up the plan. The matter of the Mercenary Association brought a lot of trouble to the Kingdom of Germa. Just because the Vinsmoke family has information about the location of Vegapunk circulating on the market, there are countless influences. Many of Germa's cadres have been monitored and treated like the Dinosaur family. For a long time, there will always be times when you can't stand the pressure. Old Vinsmoke didn't know it, when he was trying to stop his losses and hide his secrets. The man in front of him has completely sold the big secret he wanted to hide to multiple people. Needless to say, Chinluo, the clothes that Beta the Rat Man left to Doflamingo today are almost equivalent to an invitation letter. The minced meat of dinosaur meat, the powder of accumulated volcanic ash, the leaves of ancient plants. The clues aren't written down, but there aren't many places near Calgary that meet those criteria. Even if they were excluded one by one, the address of the Vegapunk Institute could be found. Doflamingo is a smart guy who never misses this information. Chinluo is very confident about this. In the noisy Calgary, on the bright side, the entire city is running for the martial arts conference. But secretly, the competition for Vegapunk and his technology is getting fiercer. Gunshots and blood never left the city's voice emerged from Chinluo's back in the breeze. It's so late and you can't sleep, be careful to lose tomorrow's game. Haha, this joke can't be funny at all. With just one move, I can solve that guy. Chinluo replied without turning his head. Wait, you won't buy me to win. Chinluo suddenly wanted a serious question. Quote. Chapter 712 Metaphysics. What do you think of a guy who loses every bet and buys you to win the game? Thank you for the invitation. I am in the United States and just got off the plane. As a PhD in psychology and economics, I can help you analyze this problem from multiple perspectives. Above. Forget it, buy it the other way around. If it's me, I'll go bankrupt and buy the other side to win. Even understand the truth of, the game is bought anyway, the villa depends on the sea, and I play a chicken gamble. After Qin Luo asked that question, the air on the balcony suddenly became a little dignified. Tsunade's ability is very trustworthy, and her ability to lose every gamble never disappoints. Since losing himself to Qin Luo thought that Tsunade would be a little bit overwhelmed, but he didn't expect it. Is that what you want to see me lose? In the dark, Qin Luo felt that he was entangled in something called metaphysics. Isn't this confidence in you? Could it be that you can still lose? Tsunade rarely showed a little woman's attitude. Qin Luo waved his hand. This kind of trust was too heavy for him to bear. He couldn't imagine himself losing. Orochimaru, who has not collected all the battle data, may also make some crazy moves. Gecko faded, dawn broke. After a short rest, the bustling city is running again. Countless people were waiting outside the martial arts competition arena early. Entering the top 64, the game finally had a different flavor. I am used to seeing one-sided battles, and the audience is looking forward to the next fierce battle. Just from the odds with little difference, you can smell the strong smell of gunpowder in the game. The top 32, out of honor, the event side will also provide a bonus. It can be said that both fame and fortune are in sight. Qin Luo turned into Hai Laozang early on. The water tank behind him was a bit bigger than the previous one, and walking on the road was like a heavy truck. Some guys with short eyes didn't dare to provoke Qin Luo directly, so they frequently shot cold shots at the big tank behind him, trying to destroy Qin Luo's props. Qin Luo has nothing to say about this situation. There are always people who want to harm me. Qin Luo's way of dealing with these people is to lock their breath, drag them out of the crowd, and interrupt them. Whichever hand fires the gun will interrupt whichever. When he came to the players' lounge, Qin Luo found that many people were not in a good condition. It seemed that Qin Luo was not the only one who was disgusted. The first to play is still Tayuya. Listen to this voice. If you can vote for the champion, you will be the first, and will not accept any refutation. Tayuya's opponent's reputation is not small. As a user of an armed prosthesis, he is affectionately known as the Mad Dog because of his wolf claws. However, when he met Tayuya, his good days came to an end. The speed and frantic attacks he relies on are nothing in front of Tayuya. No matter how fast you are, can you be faster than the speed of sound? If not, how can you beat me? Although the process was a bit twists and turns, but in the end, Tayuya also defeated the opponent. Isn't the opposite paw very advantageous? Tayuya also trimmed his nails with a knife. Shock. A well-known female swordsman is suspected of being involved in pyramid schemes, and turns into a nail master in the competition field, buying and selling by force. Behind Tayuya, Beckman and Hawkeye played one after another, and their opponents were not weak, but unfortunately they met the favorite to win the championship ahead of time and were swept away a few times. Soon, it was Qin Luo's turn to play. The 9th round of the top 32 promotion competition, Hai Laozang vs Zhonghui. In the form of a broadcast notification, the tournament team announced the players for the next match. In the players' lounge, people's eyes could not help but turn to the two protagonists who were going to fight. One is a favorite who has shown great strength, and the other is a hero who unfortunately met the great Demon King early. Fear and pity flickered back and forth in their eyes. The ghost of war means the ghost of the battlefield killing intent. When he first heard the title of his opponent, Qin Luo thought he was a murderous undead on the battlefield. Fantasy is full, but reality is very skinny. Qin Luo found that something was wrong with this opponent. On the way to the arena, the war ghost has been looking at the big tank where the seawater is stored. The look of disappointment that leaked out inadvertently made Qin Luo conclude that the bad things he encountered on the road had nothing to do with this war ghost. It wasn't until he stood still in the ring that Qin Luo carefully looked at his opponent. A burgundy samurai full body armor, red and white ghost mask integrated into the armor. The weapons are the snake spear on the back and the samurai sword on the waist. Just like the ghost generals on the battlefield in ancient Japan. The strong smell of blood and killing intent flourished from this piece of equipment. Qin Luo also asked where he came from to make a name for himself. It turned out to be a product that was fully supported by equipment. This is stable. Such an opponent, even if Tsunade is the reincarnation of the goddess of misfortune, Chinluo doesn't think he will lose. At the beginning of the battle, the war ghost took out the samurai sword and held it in both hands, and shouted in a majestic voice, "The enemy will be named." This is the usual practice of the ghosts. It was popular for a while during the points match, and now I can still see guys imitating his lines. Dumb, who couldn't even handle the master of ceremonies. Facing this kind of guy, Chinluo's way of dealing with it is to give him a look of caring for the mentally retarded and let him understand it on his own. The war ghost ate a closed door. Chinluo didn't intend to ignore him at all, and smashed the water tank behind him with a palm. 0. The water tank burst, and the sea water flowed back, automatically gathering around Chinluo. In the eyes of others, Hai Laozang was like a priest under the sea god at this moment. Feeling the pressure from the front, the war ghost took the initiative to attack without caring for a little face. The only way he could think of to deal with the sea water was not to give Aizang a chance to control it. Treading the waves. The war ghost stepped on the armor condensed by the sea water. In Chinluo's incredible eyes, the sea water was submissively divided into two by the samurai sword. The samurai sword was not hindered in the slightest, and the sharp edge of the sword slashed towards Aizang's neck. With a squeak, the samurai sword was blocked by Hai Laozang's Zen staff. I can't think of the sword skills created in the world to split the sea, but it's impossible to do it so easily. The war ghost was not discouraged by the shock, but launched a storm-like attack. The snake spear on the back was taken down by the war ghost, holding the knife in the right hand and the spear in the left. Between the swords and spears, Hai Laozang's seawater armor is as undefended as the air, and every time it strikes, a hole will be poked. Aizang's body is not very agile, and while moving left and right, he managed to block most of the attacks with his Zen staff. The MC rubbed his eyes fiercely to make sure that he was not hallucinating. Just now in the commentary, it was decided that Hai Laozang would win the final victory, and Hai Laozang was suppressed in a blink of an eye. Even a face slap came too fast. Should it be so metaphysical? Even the eloquent master of ceremonies was at a loss for words. Chapter 713 Young. I thought that Irizo, like the great demon king, would rule the entire game. But this is a brave man who emerged from a corner, and it is difficult for this war ghost to really defeat the devil. At this moment, even people who didn't pay attention to this game were stunned. In their eyes, war ghosts treading the waves is simply Hai Laozang's nemesis. If war ghost succeeds, Aizang will be the great demon king with the shortest existence. The debut is the peak falls, and it took less than 4 days to be eliminated from the game. This kind of script is exciting to think about. Will everything happen as these people think? The actual situation is known only to the two during the battle. The offensive of the war ghost is still sharp, but Chinluo is already at the end of the shot. That slight advantage could be snuffed out by Chinluo at any time. Although punching the old master to death is a terrible tactic, it does not mean that it is useless. This tactic has not been eliminated so far, which means that it is useful. As long as you are bold enough and your head is strong enough, nothing is impossible. But the shortcomings of this tactic are equally obvious. When the war ghost stops, Chinluo will tell him what cruelty is. The attack of the war ghost split the seawater beside Hai Laozang into petals and petals, like a flower bone waiting to be released. However, when the attack is over, the split seawater will be brought back into the control of Ailenzang. An indescribable feeling of disgust filled the heart of the war ghost. Treading the waves is effective, but his attack is ineffective. The clumsy Hai Laozang can always just avoid his attacks, otherwise he will be blocked by the Zen staff and never really hit Hai Laozang. The MC was flustered at the moment. There was no such thing as a face slap. Ghost player's attack is very sharp. If it were replaced by a normal opponent, he might not be able to hold it for 10 seconds. The master of ceremonies did not hesitate to praise the war ghost. His strength is obvious to all, and the audience knows it. But you know, this kind of attacking ghost has been going on for nearly a minute. Only in this contrast can the horror of Halo Zhang be reflected. Sure enough, the Master of Ceremonies continued. Unfortunately, the opponent of the War Ghost player is not an ordinary opponent, but a big devil. The War Ghost player's attack has not produced any substantial effect so far. If it goes on like this, it will be very disadvantageous to him. The MC's words were not nonsense. The War Ghost's attack became more and more anxious, and the massive consumption of physical strength also made his movements gradually slow. The battle that was almost equivalent to slow death made the ghosts a little desperate, which was different from what he imagined. Shouldn't this trump card be hidden by Tian Kahai? From madness to confusion, and back to firmness, countless thoughts flashed in the mind of the Civil War Ghost in just 1 second. All the remaining power was mobilized from the body by the War Ghost, and he was ready to sink the boat. A silver light soaring into the sky lit up, and the sea water around Hailaozang was like a cracked water balloon. Wherever the silver light passed, the sea water receded. And in this silver light, a little light flashed in front of Hailaozang in the blink of an eye. The thrown spear was hidden in the slash by the War Ghost. If Arazang only noticed the slash, the spear would become a deadly poisonous snake and go through Arazang's neck. The actions of the War Ghost could not be concealed from the old fritters present. Insidious, no no no. Speaking of insidiousness, the pirates present can pull out anyone that can do better than the War Ghost. In the sea where intrigue is equivalent to a commonplace meal, who can get such a means? Unfortunately, the ghost warriors are still too young. Just like what the Master of Ceremonies said, this 7th-generation warrior ghost, the heir of a certain family, has nothing to do with inheritance and moves, and is completely no match for Hailaozang in terms of strength and experience. If wave-treading slash is left to the end and used at a critical moment, it may be able to reap good results. But now, this kind of secret calculation is the same as playing every family. With a bang, the spear was smashed to the ground by Hailaozang's Zen staff in flight, and after a dozen steps back, the slash was also resolved by Hailaozang. The panting War Ghost vaguely saw Hailaozang smile at him, as if mocking his self-control. The split sea water turned into the tentacles of the sea monsters in seconds, besieging the War Ghosts from all directions. The War Ghost wants to resist. He doesn't want to be the plaything of the tentacle monster at all, but his body is much more sincere than his attitude. The right hand holding the katana gave only a symbolic wave, and the katana was shot down by the tentacles. The living sea water stuck to the ghost, and the tentacles rolled around and around his limbs. The War Ghost can't escape, and Hailaozang is approaching step by step. It's a pity that the script for defeating the Great Demon King has not been staged. The Ghost Warriors have done a good job, but I have to admit that there is a huge gap in strength between the two sides. However, youth is capital, and there are still a lot of Ghost Warriors. Time to improve yourself. Quote. The Master of Ceremonies is not afraid of offending people by saying this. The result of the battle is very clear, and the War Ghost has no power to fight again. Finally, the Master of Ceremonies added, "It is shameful to desert soldiers. But sometimes it is very important to recognize the gap, at least to avoid suffering." The Master of Ceremonies made it clear that the War Ghost quickly conceded defeat. But young people don't touch the wall, how can they know it hurts? During the violent struggle, the ghost head mask fell off, revealing a young and hazy face. With such strength at the age of 20, even with the resources of the family, it is enough to be proud. It's a pity that there are too many monsters like Redhead, Hawkeye, Doflamingo in the martial arts conference. It seemed he was nothing. Let go of me, kind of you took off the tortoise shell and. The words behind the War Ghost were blocked directly, and a tentacle of sea water was stuffed into his mouth. Dissatisfied. Dissatisfaction is fine, someone in Chin, treats all kinds of dissatisfaction. For a while now, Chin Luo has been dodging the attack of the War Ghost, not just for now. Last night, Chin Luo promised in front of Tsunade that if he hit his opponent with one move, then he would be knocked down. 3.8. The sea water that entangled the war ghost surged and condensed together, as if he was held in the hands of a giant. The rest of the sea outlines the other half of the sea giant. The sea giant raised its right hand high, and the arm part composed of sea water spun violently, turning into a vortex. Under this kind of thrust, the fist of the sea giant hit the war ghost. The strong wind that was pushed by his fists blew the war ghost's skin, and his eyes were wide open. Will die, if hit by this fist. This thought came to the mind of the war ghost, and the fear of death filled his mind. He regretted it, but now he didn't even have a chance to surrender. The moment the fist approached, the war ghost lost consciousness, and he was frightened by himself. The war ghost would never have imagined that after he fainted, the sea giant shattered like a bubble. Chapter 714 Chain Starks. There are many people who have been scared to death in history, but the seventh generation of war ghosts is the first to be scared to death in front of so many people. It's not easy to be the first person in history like this, it's really embarrassing. In the VIP private room in the city wall area, several old men left angrily. I thought that this martial arts conference would be the best opportunity for the family heirs to emerge. As a result, the reputation was obvious, but what did this unsatisfactory boy do in the last time? On the one hand, they are rushing to clean up the mess for the 7 generations of war ghosts. At the same time, a group of old men from the Zongui family secretly held Hailaozang a hatred. As the so-called debt does not weigh down, Qin Luo doesn't feel anything about Dora's hatred. It is mediocre not to be envied by others. Such hatred is nothing but drizzle. Qin Luo hopes that these guys can bring him some fun. The biggest advantage of the round of 32 is that the schedules of Qin Luo and the others are concentrated into one day, and the last game of the day happens to be the turn of the face Wang Shanks. Shanks finally had a decent opponent this time. He was as happy as a 19-year-old monkey who picked up a banana. He was simply lazy. I've been looking forward to the last finale of the day. I'll have Shanks and Starks right away. The audience cheered, and the audience did not hesitate to applaud for the upcoming battle. Shanks, needless to say, and his opponent Starks also came out of the audition. Like Shanks, he belongs to the dark horse among the dark horses, and is considered a strong contender for the top 16. But now, such two players have to meet in advance in the top 32 promotion round. While feeling sorry for the two of them, everyone felt their blood boil. As if the finals were staged ahead of schedule. Shanks, captain of the red-haired pirates. The Starks of the North Blue Chain mercenaries. After the two people who were about to fight exchanged names, they looked at each other and waited for the start of the game. Starks is a tall, thin man dressed in punk clothes, with several metal rings over a tank top and leggings. A non-mainstream hairstyle is like a hedgehog. If you add a nose ring, it will basically be exactly the same as Qin Luo's impression of the speeding gangster. In addition, Starks is a Paramesha Devil Fruit ability user, and a highly developed chain fruit makes him unscrupulous in the mercenary battlefield of North Blue. This martial arts conference really attracted a lot of masters in the mercenary world. Starks, this is the real battle, I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Shanks said sincerely, a little war intention was mentioned by him. Ha, are you stupid? What can you expect from this battle? With our strength, we actually made it to the top 32, but now there is one person who must fall here. It must be the event party that made a fool of himself. These black-hearted guys, just can't trust them. Starks rolled his eyes at Shanks and said helplessly with a flip of his hand. Maybe, but the real strong won't lose victory because of these factors. The reason you can't advance is just that you're not strong enough. A gust of wind blew, and the straw hat on Shanks' head was overturned and hung around his neck, and the cloak was blown up. The right thumb gently pushed the long knife out of the scabbard, and his eyes opened like sharp blades. There is actually a guy like you in the pirates, that's just right, all except the top 32. Quote. The collision sound of, ping ping pong pong, came out, and the 4 chains fell from Starks's hands. If you talk about fighting spirit, he is not bad at all. At the moment when the game whistle sounded, Shanks was the unsheathed sharp blade, and he ran towards it. Starks moved back unhurriedly. His ability was not suitable for a head-to-head with Shanks. Only more detour space can really display his abilities. The four chains were instructed by Stark's like arms, and the flying chains met Shanks and became entangled with him. Chains can always be whipped from various angles, causing Shanks to swing a knife to fight, and the distance between him and Starks is fixed between 20 and 25 meters, and it cannot be shortened. The difficulty of the chain is that the frequency-intensive attack network composed of four chains gives Shanks no chance to breathe. If this stalemate is maintained, Shanks will definitely consume far more physical strength than Starks. Years of experience in various battlefields make all of Starks's tactics and attack methods practical and efficient. As for ugly, shameless, none of this matters to Starks. As long as the final victory is achieved, who cares about the process? Shanks couldn't just sit still, and he also had rich combat experience, and he quickly found a way to break the game. Under the seemingly dense and traceless attack network, the movement trajectory of the chain has a strange pattern. It was only by taking advantage of this pattern that Starks could easily launch such a large-scale attack. Seizing the pattern, the heavy shadows return to their original appearance in Shanks' eyes, just like slow-motion playback, and the four chains moved exactly as Shanks expected. Changing his cautious defensive posture, Shanks slashed sharply. The four chains were repelled at the same time, the blade slashed two, the tip of the blade flew off one, and the handle hit another. Even Starks secretly said something powerful. "You are very strong to be able to find a way to crack so quickly," Starks said. Shanks grinned. "Isho, this is the fight I want. Your 840 is more than that, just let it go." Responding to Shanks was Starks's mysterious "Isho." Shanks immediately realized that something was wrong, and that any omission in the battle would be a big mistake. The chain that was knocked into the air by Shanks turned an incredible right angle in the air and continued to attack from behind him. When he turned around, the strong wind from the chains almost stuck on Shanks' face. Dong 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 dong, four chains were fastened through the ground and went deep into the ground. Shanks dodged the attack with several flips in a row, and in return his cape was ripped off by the chains and twisted to smithereens. "Huh, I really don't care at all." Shanks, who escaped the attack, scratched his head and shouted for luck. At the same time, he also realized that these chains could not be just knocked into the air, they had to be cut off. "Come again." Taking off the remnants of the cloak, and tying the straw hat on his head, Shanks shouted with a knife. Shanks' voice resounded through the arena under the amplification of the broadcast, and everyone held their breaths, even the MC spoke much less at this time. If the previous one was just a test and a warm-up, the next thing is a full-blown collision. More chains emerged from Starks's body, and he wiped his neck with his left hand at Shanks. "Come." Chapter 715. Inside the cobweb, there are chains. If you want to fight, then fight. Starks is responding to Shanks' invitation in his own way. Shanks raised the long knife flat, and as his left hand wiped the knife, armament was domineering little by little. The air became irritable for no reason, and the clouds in the sky moved faster and faster, trying to escape from here. In North Blue, Conqueror Hockey is an unfamiliar and familiar term, and he usually only appears in old people's stories. But just recently, it's a term that anyone in Calgary hears a lot. And along with the word is mentioned a name. Red-haired Shanks, what an unbelievable fellow, to envision yet another monster on the Great Route. A little bit of eyesight has already guessed that Shanks is using the power of Conqueror Hockey, and it is the first time that he has shown this legendary aptitude to the North Blue people with all his strength. The audition can only be regarded as a surprise. Starks's feeling was the most intuitive, as if he was being targeted by an ancient beast. The biggest crisis he has ever experienced, when he was chased by a group of sea kings at sea, was not as stressful as it is now. The thumping heart, this feeling fascinated Starks, it was amazing. Subconsciously pursing his lips, the chains that emerged from his body shook violently in response to his emotions. Shanks came step by step, and every step he took was a bit more dignified. Looking unhappy, but calmly narrowed the distance between him and Starks. By the time Starks reacted from the shock, the distance between them had exceeded the safe threshold of 20 meters. Starks was shocked, and 3 chains shot at a distance of more than 10 meters behind him, nailing them into the ground. The chains contracted, pulling him back quickly. At the same time, Starks waved to Shanks with both hands, and countless chains moved in the wind, locking Shanks firmly. In the rustling, savagely elongated chains surrounded Shanks, trying to wrap it into a ball of iron. In the next second, the black light flashed, Shanks slashed, and the chains were like hay under the fire, all annihilated. There was a thick iron smell in the air of the arena, and those chains were chopped into pieces by Shanks and melted into the air. The momentum of this destruction has been traced back to these chains, and it didn't stop until about 5 meters in front of Starks. Starks resentfully withdrew the much shorter chain. It's not that our army is not strong, but the enemy's army has opened up. In this state, Shanks, what chain is not cut into pieces for him? Chain Starks also needs to spend physical strength to summon. He thinks it is not good to take the chain to give people the head in the case of obviously thankless. Oiling the soles of his feet, a few chain nails were shot on the ground in the distance, moving quickly with Starks, away from Shanks who turned on long Aocean mode. He couldn't believe it. This kind of transformation Shanks could continue forever. Starks fled in the front, Shanks pursued. But Starks undercounted a little. The unhindered Shanks was no slower than him, and he was about to catch up with him faintly. There was no need to look back, just the hair that stood up could make Starks feel Shanks approaching. Chasing your sister, this is what you forced me to do. Starks shook his head, his right hand more than doubled in size, and hundreds of chains were drawn towards Shanks. Suddenly receiving a big gift, Shanks did not have any rush. The long knife slashed, and the pillar of the chain was cut off in the middle. And taking advantage of this kung fu, Starks threw himself into the air. The general sound of unlocking came up in a series of Starks, and his punk clothes were torn apart. If the previous chains seemed to grow out of Starks, at this moment Starks completely turned into a chain man, a creature made of chains. The chains wrapped round and round on Starks. At the same time as his body size doubled, a chain with the thickness of an arm was launched from him and nailed to the eaves at the top of the auditorium. People haven't figured out what he's doing, and more of these chains have been launched, fixed on the top of the auditorium, and new chains have colluded with each other. In the end, Starks used this method to hang in the air. Looking at the sky above the arena surrounded by chains, it is full of cobwebs. This is the true Starks Zorman who roams the battlefield, and this form maximizes his devil fruit powers. Now the entire arena is his lair made of chains. Shanks looked like a worm running into a spider's web, about to be strangled by a predator. The chains arranged like Skynet. Thanks to Starks's chain body at the moment, he can move on the cobweb in a strange almost teleportation way. Endless chains emerged from Starks, one by one like tracking missiles, chasing the target endlessly. Even though Shanks harvested one crop after another, it still maintained a terrifying number. After these chains are inserted into the ground, they will emerge from somewhere on the ground when they turn a corner, and continue to join the army besieging Shanks. In a short time, a torrent of chains has wrapped Shanks around. Shanks will definitely not sit still. Before he was swallowed by the chains on the ground, he jumped high, and his rapidly spinning body blew a storm of blades, facing the cage of the chains. For a moment, the cage almost collapsed, and the chains of Starks kept up in time to barely maintain the speed of the consumption. Starks is trying to compress the prison, and the harsh metal friction sound indicates how fierce the counterattack in the prison is. The prison has a trend of shrinking, but every few seconds, Shanks will also condense a sky-high slash, breaking the cobweb at the top of the prison. The distance that Starks can teleport is getting smaller and smaller, but now all his energy is spent on shrinking the prison. This is a contest against time, and whoever achieves the goal first is the final winner. With only the last few cobwebs left, Starks was shaky, but the prison stopped first. Did he win in the end? He took a sigh of relief and looked at the prison below. Suddenly, a black light bloomed from the top of the chain prison, and the slashing edge almost wiped Starks's face and rushed into the air. It was a black light that opened the sky, and a figure flashed through it, stepping on the chains and approaching Starks. Shanks was in a very bad state at the moment. His body was covered in blood, but he won, and he put the long knife covered with hockey on the opponent's neck. Starks was in a trance and exhausted all his strength, but in the end he did not win the game. Chapter 716 Contract reached. Pushed by Shanks with a knife and landed on the ground, Starks released the form of the chain demon, raised his hands and said, "Okay, you are strong, you won." After speaking, Starks simply lay down on the ground. He really used up all his strength. Afterwards, his mercenary regiment carried him away. Shanks' state was not much better than his opponent's, with a lot of bloodletting and serious muscle strains. Even if the average person got the most timely treatment, he would have to lie in bed for a week. The schedule of the martial arts tournament is very tight. Once you are seriously injured in the competition, even if you barely make the cut, you will lose the next round without any suspense. It's very unworthy for someone whose goal is to be a champion. Therefore, the early encounter of strengths like Shanks and Starks is indeed full of malice from the event side. Fortunately, Roger, Shanks, and Luffy are three of them. In less than a day, this guy Shanks was able to bounce around again without incident. The next day's game is a time for the players who have already advanced to take a vacation to recover from their injuries, but Chin Luo can't. Because someone from Fishman Island has arrived. Stuck in front of the round of 16, Itachi is quite timely. Chin Luo called 853 to get Beta of the Rat Man, and with Itachi, the three of them secretly visited Darwin and formally presented him with a showdown. When he arrived, Darwin could vaguely sense his intention, and excitedly welcomed Chin Luo and his party into his most secret underground conference room. "Well, 100% of the people here are my own people, and there is absolutely no risk of leaking secrets," Darwin said. At this time, there were only 7 people left in the secret room, excluding 3 from Chin Luo's side, and Darwin left only the housekeeper and 2 bodyguards. The housekeeper is an old acquaintance, and these 2 bodyguards are not simple. As the number 1 and number 2 of the Dinosaur family armed prosthetic squad, they are also the first and second captains of the Dinosaur family's defense force. Only such an identity can be regarded by Darwin as a confidant, equivalent to the housekeeper. Chin Luo and Darwin sat face to face with their subordinates standing behind them. After the housekeeper made tea for them, he backed away. "Patriarch Darwin, this rash visit is mainly for one thing." "But the previous proposal?" Darwin couldn't help asking. "Of course." Chin Luo nodded. "So, what do you mean?" Darwin asked cautiously, although from Chin Luo's attitude, he felt that the possibility of success was very high, but the more this is the case, the more he should behave in front of the future. "Master, just be cautious." "No hurry. Before that, I want to ask Darwin Patriarch something." "How much have you guessed about my identity?" Chin Luo said while looking at Darwin. Darwin was stumped for a while. It's a bit funny to say that the Dinosaur family wanted to find a backer, but they didn't even know which mountain they defected to. This is not nonsense. Darwin was worried that Chin Luo would be taken out of his anger, and exchanged glances with the housekeeper, and finally said with a little helplessness and apprehension, "Your Excellency is from the most mysterious family in the world, but it's hard to guess who it is." Darwin was also very desperate. With so little information, how could he analyze it? Chin Luo and Lu Yun also came from a mysterious hidden family and possessed some of the same abilities. With just a little bit of information in his hand, he could tell whether Chin Luo or Lu Yun was sitting in front of him. Chin Luo seemed to have known this for a long time, and he waved to Itachi behind him to take off the mask. Uchiha Itachi, Haiden, Ninetails, Tsunade, Jinbei, Fisher, and other officials of Luyun Palace, after having a big fight with the pirates of the New World, can be regarded as completely famous all over the world. The moment he saw the iconic tear trough on Itachi's face, Darwin knew who was in front of him. Darwin quickly stood up, half-kneeled in front of Qin Luo, and respectfully shouted, "Lord Lu Yunshen." So did Darwin's bodyguards and housekeepers. Qin Luo gladly accepted their great gift. Since even his identity is revealed, some things are self-evident. The strength of the Dinosaur family is very good, whether it is in terms of resources, force or technology. The sincerity of the patriarch is so sincere. I can't think of any reason to reject the Dinosaur family. So. Qin Luo paused for a while and continued, "Patriarch Darwin, you will be one of our members in the future." Hearing Qin Luo's promise, Darwin breathed a sigh of relief and finally put down the big stone in his heart. Getting on the fast boat of Luyun Palace will not only be able to survive the coming disaster that will make him uneasy, but also possibly bring the family to a higher level. But there is no such thing as a free lunch, and Darwin knew that. God, I want to know what the Dinosaur family has to pay. Qin Luo admires Darwin's sense of interest very much. It always feels strange to mention this kind of thing by himself, and it feels a bit like taking advantage of the fire. Darwin avoided such embarrassment. "Call me the boss in the future. You can read this document first. Sign it if there is no problem." Qin Luo took out a contract from his arms and threw it to Darwin. The above content is basically based on Darwin's original promise plus a few things that Tsunade and the others discussed. The conditions are not too harsh. Generally speaking, the Dinosaur family will serve Luyun Palace in the future, and the family's resources and technology will be open to Luyun Palace. The corresponding Luyun Palace will shelter the Dinosaur family and help it establish its position in the North Blue. And all this will be done in secret, which is undoubtedly very in line with Darwin's thinking. Apart from taking Vegapunk away, Darwin was almost satisfied with the contract. But this is what Qin Luo said must be agreed. Darwin made a decision in an instant and signed his name directly on the contract. It's not a bargain right now, and with shallow waters to hide dragons, North Blue is no longer suitable for Vegapunk to stay. Qin Luo retracted the contract with satisfaction. From now on, the Dinosaur family is the branch base of Luyun Palace in North Blue. With the idea of reciprocating, Qin Luo introduced another subordinate he brought, the Rat Man Beta, to the Dinosaur family. For a while, Darwin didn't recognize Beta the Rat Man until he overlapped this somewhat familiar guy with a mercenary who had been very hot recently. It really is a rumor that the Rat Man Beta is actually working for Luyun Palace. Rumor. Why do you think so? Qin Luo said. Isn't it? This time Darwin was surprised. So at Qin Luo's request, Ratman Beta not only showed his ability to transform, but also told a series of plans for the Kingdom of Germa. Chapter 717 All the Best. Ratman Beta is an important part of the Vinsmoke father and son's plan, and the leading party in the entire operation. The Vinsmoke father and son are a bit underestimated by Beta, the Rat Watcher, and are too reassured about him. But it was such a mercenary who was working on his own mission while teaming up with Taiyu also to investigate the information, and he could almost get a glimpse of the whole picture of the plan. Darwin first heard about Germa's kingdom's plans. He didn't believe it, then fell into deep shock. If the Vinsmoke father and son's plan really happens, the Dinosaur family will be in big trouble. Vinsmoke Judge, very good, I let him go, he will use these to repay me, worthy of being the biological son of that old ghost. Darwin said almost through gritted teeth. Qin Luo was more concerned about was that Darwin had already discovered the identity of Vinsmoke Judge, and it was a big heart to be able to invite such a time bomb into his own base and ignore it. Of course, Qin Luo stopped a pair of Darwin who was about to clean up Vinsmoke Judge immediately. There's no need to worry about this. I have already arranged a backup for their plan, and they will not succeed. And I also need them to help the Dinosaur family transfer their hatred, so let them go. Qin Luo's face was not blushing and his heart was not beating, and he insisted that the plan arranged by Olivia and Tsunade was his own. Will Vegapunk be taken away by the other party in this way? Isn't this what the boss ordered to take away? Darwin said suspiciously. In fact, Darwin and the Distressed are still the submarine base. It was the last den of the Danethil family, the kind of sanctuary, and they couldn't find a place more secluded than that. And Germa's actions are likely to destroy the base. Who do you think I'm for? Now Marine, the kingdom of Germa, and the Don Quixote family don't know that Vegapunk is in your hands. When is this time? Vegapunk is a hot potato now, and whoever has it will be unlucky. Chin Luo pointed to Darwin and said. But you don't know yet. Marine's reinforcements have already set off secretly. Chin Luo threw a bomb, and this piece of information was brought by Itachi when he arrived. Does Buster Call know? Does O'Hara know? Marine doesn't care what happens to Calgary, they just want Vegapunk. What? Which general is leading the team? Akainu, Kizaru, or Sengoku, Garp? Darwin was panicking now. A Kuzan who has never appeared, and another admiral-level combat power. Marine is trying to flatten the Dinosaur family. Chin Luo no longer has any thoughts about Darwin's hindsight. Who comes at such a time is important, isn't it all based on the Dinosaur family friction? When he finally left, Chin Luo gave Darwin only one order, that is to fully cooperate with Itachi in the following plans. After leaving the Dinosaur family's manor, Chin Luo didn't go back directly. He turned to Orochimaru's new laboratory to see how the progress there was not the first time for Chin Luo to come to Orochimaru's laboratory. Shortly after pressing the doorbell, the secret door of the laboratory opened, and a person greeted Chin Luo at the secret door. The dim light, Vegapunk stood there with an indifferent expression. Vegapunk, why are you here? For a moment, Chin Luo was a little deceived. He didn't want to leave the excellent experimental conditions in the base provided by the Dinosaur family, and ran to Orochimaru. This is really love. Didn't he say it was just a pen pal? Why did Orochimaru kidnap everyone? No, it's not Vegapunk, you are Orochimaru. Chin Luo suddenly realized something. After Chin Luo finished speaking, the skin on Vegapunk's surface was like a burning sticker, turning into ashes and dissipating. In an instant, Chin Luo's familiar Orochi pill appeared in front of him. Haha, doesn't it look like it? I thought I could deceive a little longer. The tone of Orochimaru's mouth and the expression on his face were not disappointed at all, but full of jokes. He definitely saw Chin Luo's surprise just now and was secretly proud. Chin Luo said to himself 3 times in a row, money to buy, money to buy, money to buy. Only barely resisted the urge to beat Orochimaru. New transfiguration. Are you going to play Vegapunk yourself? I used Vegapunk cells to make a layer of fake skin. Unless it's like exploring the soul in some special methods, no one can see the flaws. Orochimaru is very confident in his new transformation technique, and thinks that he has achieved the perfect perfection, but didn't he see through it just now? Blow pussy or will you Orochimaru blow? Just when Chin Luo was about to make a sarcastic speech, he suddenly realized that he had just seen through Orochimaru because of the locking of the system. That is to say, Orochimaru is not bragging. With a deflated mouth, for some reason, Chin Luo always felt a little regretful that he had lost a chance to mock Orochimaru. As for the role of Vegapunk, is there a better person than me? Not everyone can play a knowledgeable researcher. Boss, you can't choose some scumbags that haven't even done experiments to replace Vegapunk. I have to say that Orochimaru's words are justified. Knowledge reserve and experimental level cannot be pretended by acting skills. In fact, from the beginning, Chin Luo planned to give this task to Orochimaru, but he didn't say it clearly. While chatting with Orochimaru about the plan, Chin Luo walked into the laboratory. At this time, in the glass-filled culture tank at the center of the laboratory, the previous experimental body has been removed and replaced by a growing body. Vegapunk number 2, but this body is a little young, like Vegapunk when he was young. Did it go well? Chin Luo pointed to the culture tank in the center. It comes to technical matters, Orochimaru is still reliable, it's okay, cloning technology is quite mature in the world of Naruto, but it's a bit troublesome to cultivate it like Vegapunk is now. As soon as possible, the latest news, those guys might get their hands on it ahead of time. Known intelligence is that Marine and Germa kingdoms may be ahead of schedule, and the Don Quixote family may also be on the move. I'll try my best, Orochimaru said calmly. I can give you the task of pretending to be a Vegapunk, but don't go too far and screw things up for me. With Orochimaru's revenge, as long as there is a chance, it will never make the Don Quixote family feel better. Qin Luoming knew this, so he still gave him the task of playing Vegapunk. It's really impossible not to give it. Orochimaru was obviously trying to shirk it just now. Then there will be no problem. Real, so real. Chapter 718. Kuzan's one-day lurk. News of Marine sending reinforcements is a secret. Among the many forces in Calgary, apart from Qin Luo and others who accidentally learned about it, the only people who knew it were Kuzan and his adjutant. Seriously, these reinforcements were requested by Kuzan from Marine headquarters. As a result, reinforcements really came, but Kuzan was not happy at all. The reinforcements he wanted were soldiers, warships, and cannons, not some yellow monkey who came to share the credit with him. Now that Kizaru is already halfway there, we can't let people go back. Kuzan does not have this ability. The only way is to maximize the credit in his own hands before Kizaru arrives. So as long as there was no competition, Kuzan squatted on the Don Quixote family's turf. Today is another day of lurking. Just like now, Kuzan was far behind several cadres of the Plum Blossom army of the Don Quixote family. After these guys came out of Don Quixote's station, they sneaked all the way to the port. The Plum Blossom army is a special ability group of the Don Quixote family. After Virgo of the Heart army became a spy, many special tasks were completed by the Plum Blossom army. Coupled with the bizarre behavior of this group, it immediately caught Kuzan's attention. They boarded a fishing boat at the port and went straight away among the many sailing boats. Don't think that they won't be followed when they're at sea, and that doesn't bother Kuzan, even though he doesn't have a boat ready for use ahead of time. Finding a remote corner, Kuzan jumped into the sea. At the moment of falling into the sea directly below Kuzan had formed a thick layer of ice, which just dragged the falling Kuzan. Then, every time Kuzan took a step, a piece of ice floe appeared under his feet, and after he took it, it quickly melted into the seawater. In this way, a white ghost walked among the densely lined ships in the port, taking advantage of the interval of less than 1 meter. At the back, there were fewer ships parked, and Kuzan used the ships ready to sail as cover, moving back and forth on their sills. The preparations for the ship to set sail are not that simple, and thanks to this, the ghostly Kuzan has remained unnoticed. Before the guys from the Don Quixote family left the port, Kuzan jumped with all his strength, and with a bang, he fell into the stern of the fishing boat. Due to the emergency at the end, Kuzan increased the speed of his jump to the maximum in order not to be seen by others, and it was inevitable that some could not hold his strength. Did you hear that? What? Just a strange sound, like something hit the boat. No, not at all. Besides, there are so many ships going out to sea, it's normal for any ship to make some noise. Don't be suspicious. The breach caused by Kuzan caused a commotion among the Don Quixote family officials on the fishing boat. No accomplice agreed with him, but the person who asked the question obviously didn't intend to just give up. The man could vaguely feel that the sound was coming from the stern of the boat, and he rushed to the stern to look down. Kuzan only heard a series of hurried footsteps, and it was too late to react. Nothing strange was seen in the stern, which was what the cautious Don Quixote cadre had found. Not believing in evil, he went around the boat and inspected the ship's warehouse again, but still found nothing suspicious. Did he really hear it wrong? The commotion subsided, the fishing boat set sail normally, and Kuzan, who had been hiding, breathed a sigh of relief. There is something strange about where he hides. The ships of this period basically had a bow or a ramming angle. For example, Going Merry and Wanli Sunshine made a sheep's head and a lion's head even more strange. The bow of this fishing boat has a pointed triangular ram, but it is relatively narrow and cannot hide a person. But Kuzan was different. He turned himself into a lump of ice block, shrunk into a ball and froze under the inside of the collision angle. It was impossible to see Kuzan from the perspective of the people on board. And they would never have thought that there was a person hiding here. The only chance of exposure is if someone touches the icy bump. But this accident did not happen. Kuzan's infiltration was so successful. Of course, this place can't be hidden for a long time, but the boats on the side can see Kuzan clearly. Waiting for a while, Kuzan carefully moved to a corner of the fishing boat cabin and became the most leisurely guest on the boat. Looking at the sea, he used a pointer to draw a course on the map. Just waiting for the Don Quixotes to bring him to their destination. The route was directed to a private island near Calgary. The former convenience, shown on the map, was home to the Dinosaur Family Dinosaur Institute. The spy ship, which was draped in fishing skins, also encountered the Dinosaur family's patrol boat, but Kuzan discovered that the captain of the patrol boat was apparently acquainted with Don Quixote's cadres. After paying a sum of money, the patrol fleet released the fishing boat. The fishing boat encountered two fleets in the back, but with connections and money, they finally got in. Why would an unimportant dinosaur research institute have an apparently oversized patrol fleet? And why did the Don Quixote family bribe these people? These two questions made Kuzan realize that the island's hidden things are not simple. Will it be him? A certain thought flashed, and Kuzan suddenly looked forward to it. At a certain corner of the island, the fishing boat docked, and all the officials of the Don Quixote family disembarked and got busy. Kuzan didn't know what they were tinkering with, but that didn't stop him from eavesdropping on the final result. Are you sure? Of course, whether it's the plants or the soil, it's all right. What about the smell on the clothes? Take out a shard and compare it. Don't, spare me, it's not wrong, it's the sour taste of dinosaur meat. I just passed a place like a slaughterhouse, and the smell almost vomited. Quote. That's right here, the young master didn't guess wrong. This point has been basically confirmed when we set off. I 0.7 are just here to confirm. Don't talk about this, have you found the real exit? It's difficult, this place is too big, and it takes a lot of time to investigate without anyone's eyes and ears. The communication of the Don Quixote family officials came to Kuzan's ears word for word. Clothes, fragments, plants. A series of memory fragments came to my mind, and there was no mistake, it was referring to the clothes of Beta the rat man who was taken away by Doflamingo. And this island is not a dinosaur research institute, but a hiding place of Vegapunk. This man, Doflamingo, deduced the real location using only a few clues on his clothes, which is really scary. But this time Kuzan really has to thank Doflamingo. Once the location of Vegapunk is determined, the rest will be easy. Chapter 719 Payouts and New Rounds. There was no possibility of continuing the exploration of the entrance, and the guys from Don Quixote seemed to be leaving before the patrol fleet changed. Kuzan didn't stay either, he went back with Don Quixote's fishing boat. Kuzan still knew the reason why he couldn't eat hot tofu in a hurry. Even the Don Quixote family who bought the guards were so cautious. He has no information, and it doesn't matter, and his random actions will only startle the snakes. Besides, since the Don Quixote family has contributed money and efforts, he can just wait for the harvest. It's not a thing to say that people are in good spirits at a happy event. Since he discovered the secret of Vegapunk's hiding place, Kuzan no longer has to worry about Kizaru who came to grab credit, and even let go of his hands and feet in the following games. In this way, the competition to advance to the top 16 started. After more than half a month of on and off, the martial arts conference finally came to an end. Each of the 32 players who came out of the crowd is a powerful player with a reputation. And these people will continue to fight for the final victory in the following games. Because it is not a final, it is impossible for the event side to prepare a special ceremony for today's game. But before the start of the game, the 19th party invited the top 32 players and distributed their prize money in front of all the audience. A special check was sent to the players. With this check, anyone can withdraw 2 million Baileys in a Calgary bank. No name, no tax, this is the real 2 million Baileys. The tournament party is using the simplest method to superheat the atmosphere of the game. Thinking about it, there are already countless people gearing up to participate in the next martial arts conference. 2 million Baileys are indeed a lot, and among the players, only a few dishes with a big family and a big business can't look down on this bonus. And these definitely don't include the red-haired pirates who are used to being poor. The three of the red-haired pirates have always acted like conjoined babies, staying together most of the time. At this moment, Shanks shook the bill in his hand and said incredulously, "This thing can really be exchanged for 2 million, and I always feel that the money is a bit easy to make." Shanks' words caught Beckman's eyes for a while. "Captain, although we are very poor, please don't act so rude, it's weird if you don't see the eyes of the people around you." Shanks, 2 million Baileys are nothing, not even a fraction of your future bounty. Beckman coughed and reminded his captain to restrain himself, but it seemed to be of no use. "The bounty can't be exchanged for money. If I go to the Marine headquarters and surrender, they can still transfer the money to my account." Beckman opened his mouth wide, and then coughed wildly. It was a fake cough just now, this time it was real, and he was choked on saliva. Beckman can't wait to seal his captain's mouth immediately. If his words are caught and released on the radio, the reputation of the Red Hair Pirates will become a joke. So Beckman directly stole the notes from Shanks. Confiscated, in the name of the pirate ship activity funds, the source of the crime that led to Shanks' mistakes was taken away. Not only that, Beckman also took aim at the one in Hawkeye's hand. "No way, 2 million is not enough to buy a good knife, don't hit me." Well, Hawkeye began to pay attention to saving his wife's book. Because it was relatively close, Kuzan had a panoramic view of the small theater on the side of the red-haired pirates. Kuzan, who was in a state of triumph, couldn't help but make a small calculation in his heart. Is this red-haired pirate so short of money? Maybe this can be used. Due to the inconvenient use of Marine's power, Kuzan's manpower is extremely short. The strength of the red-haired pirates is good, maybe they can be hired to do something. Like stalking Doflamingo or doing something disruptive and distracting can be done by them without worrying about revealing their intentions. Now the relationship between the Calgary forces is complicated, and who would have guessed that this lonely pirate was Marine's? Kuzan is not a marine who upholds absolute justice like Akainu. For the red-haired pirates, a pirate group with little black history and a weak case, he didn't mind hiring them. Activity funding is not a problem, at least it is much better than the 2 million Baileys. Probably the more he thought about it, the more feasible it was. Kuzan looked at the bill in his hand with more playful eyes, and the corner of his eye would scan the audience from time to time to see if there were any extra options. If Chin Luo knew what Kuzan was thinking at the moment, he would probably jump for joy. Kuzan is a good comrade. Not only does he not get paid for filming, but also solves the problem of eating for other actors. He has been worrying about how to guide Kuzan to continue according to the script. One time is definitely not enough, a good script should arrange the actors clearly. You can't always have Beta the Ratman and Kuzan play opposite each other. Ratman Beta said it was stressful. This round of 16 competition, the event group did not let Duoyu go first for the first time. Chin Luo guessed that this was probably related to the strength that Duoyu also showed. Most of the analysis before the game predicted that Tuyuya's winning rate in this round was less than 50%, and even if he could win, it would be extremely difficult. The tournament team put the female player Tuyuya in the front in order to heat up the atmosphere, but if she loses, wouldn't it be counterproductive? Maybe from the very beginning, the tournament team didn't think that Duoyu also could make it to the top 16, so they arranged for Duoyu to have such a strong opponent here. However, the schedule 930 has already been set, and it is useless to say that, I believe Duoyu will also surprise them. Because Duoyu was also ranked at the back, Chin Luo's first player to play became Hawkeye. His opponent was an old acquaintance, Diamante of the Don Quixote family. Doflamingo and the two top cadres were the ones who could make it to the top 32 on the Don Quixote family's side. It must be a fate destined to meet them all. Hawkeye is very vengeful, and the memory of the Don Quixote family saying they want to clean up is still vivid in my mind. Yo, isn't this a foil swordsman? I can't catch up with a woman, but the dressing room declaration is sharp and tight. Diamante's frivolous voice contained a hint of gunpowder. As soon as he opens his mouth, the audience can feel that there is a story between the two people, especially this story has a relationship with a woman. A sadomasochistic relationship with a complicated relationship cannot help but be made up by people. Come on, let the storm come harder. Hawkeye glanced at Diamante disdainfully, and if his opponent was Doflamingo, he would still be interested in taunting him back. But just this Diamante, I'm sorry, his eagle eye hasn't dropped so much. Pulling out the cross sword behind him and pointing it at Diamante, Hawkeye is more willing to communicate with each other in the way of a swordsman. Like cut him, and cut him. Very perfect solution. Chapter 720 Crotch Cat. Hawkeye looked reluctant to say more, sharpening his knife and looking at Diamante. Seeing this, the competition side skipped the stage of the small theater very wisely and directly announced the start of the competition. At the point where the whistle ended, Hawkeye stepped down, and his whole body turned into an arrow from the string. The cross sword danced in his hand, and both the man and the sword circled in the air, and then slashed diagonally from top to bottom. At the beginning, he used the cross sword on the back, which shows that Hawkeye attaches great importance to this round of competition, so he used 70% of his strength as soon as he came up. Although Diamante loves to mock people, she has never underestimated Hawkeye's strength. Because of full preparation, Eagle Eye's Thunder Slash was held by Diamante with a Western sword. The power of that knife was successfully resolved after he took a small step back. Hawkeye was definitely not satisfied with this result, so he gradually increased the power on the cross greatsword, and the blade pressing on the cross greatsword kept approaching Diamante's head. After Hawkeye raised his strength to 90%, Diamante was finally unable to withstand it, and his counterattack also unfolded in another way. Silently, the tip of the Western sword came alive, biting its prey like a poisonous snake. Hawkeye's response was quick, turning his head slightly to avoid the first attack of the Western sword, but this poisonous snake reluctantly changed its target and turned to attack Hawkeye's neck. The neck can't be opened sideways like the head, so Hawkeye flew away and kicked Diamante, who was controlling the snake sword, directly. At the same time, the cross sword was retracted, and the nearby Western sword flew away. Diamante was kicked suddenly, and his body fell back somewhat uncontrollably. But as a fruit flyer, a banner man, it is quite difficult to make him lose his balance. So don't look at Diamante being kicked so his hands and feet are almost parallel to the ground. But just the word, almost, in the audience's exclamation, Diamante straightened his body a little bit. And in the process of falling to the ground, he manipulated the snake sword to stray beside Hawkeye, constantly biting. At this time, the Western sword is like a ribbon made of gummy, and the slashing of the eagle eye will only make it longer and more irritating. But Diamante's Western sword can't do anything with Hawkeye. No matter which angle you attack from, the blade or tip of the Western sword always has to face the eagle eye. I haven't heard of anyone who can stab someone to death with the back of a knife. When facing the sword's edge and the tip of the sword, Hawkeye can always shoot it flying efficiently, as skillfully as if it had been rehearsed. Finally, the impatient Hawkeye slashed 3-sword chi at Diamante, forcing the opponent to hurriedly withdraw the snake sword to resist the sword chi. In the first round of confrontation, it seems that neither of them took advantage. But some things are not just on the surface. Both players are very strong kendo masters, and their confrontation is like dancing on the tip of the sword. Hawkeye's swordsmanship is still sharp, while Diamante has integrated his devil fruit ability into his swordsmanship, which has produced a bizarre effect. But the wind of the conversation changed, and the audience, who were fully familiar with the way the MC narrated, knew that the key point was finally coming. In order not to offend anyone, the old master of ceremonies always blew both sides before saying something practical. Everyone is used to it. But I have to say that this old guy still has something, and he can always see the key to the point, and has helped the audience analyze the situation of the game countless times. Diamante players have already started to use their abilities, but Hawkeye players have only used some simple moves so far, and they are more skillful. If Diamante players can't gain some practical advantages in the future, they will win. The balance will gradually tip towards his opponent. Quote. The MC explained that the voice contestant could hear it naturally, and his words stuck to Diamante's body like a talisman. Hawkeye smiled contemptuously and raised his sword to attack. Don't use your eagle-eyed skills to insult swordsmanship again, Hawkeye said softly as he approached. Diamante was furious and roared, You said this is a small trick, then I'll show you how powerful it is. For Diamante's crooked way of swordsmanship, Hawkeye intends to show him what real swordsmanship is. Triple. The cross sword was held behind him by Hawkeye, his speed suddenly increased, and a phantom appeared. In front of Diamante, Hawkeye turned into a monster with 3 heads and 6 arms. A Z-shaped sword light flashed, and Eagle Eye appeared behind Diamante. Phantoms are fake, but slashes are real. Hawkeye turned and continued to face Diamante because he knew the game wasn't over. A sense of crisis saves Diamante's life. At the critical moment, Diamante wrapped himself in a bullfighting cloak. You must know that this bullfighting cloak is made of steel by Diamante's ability to fly fruit. The bull's cloak was cut into 3 pieces, but at least it blocked the attack and didn't hurt Diamante. But then, Diamante did a very strange thing. He picked up the broken cape and held it in his hand. You are very strong, but the young master's order cannot be disobeyed. In order to win the game, Diamante made some preparations. Bull's scepter. Diamante wrapped the western sword into a bullfighting stance, and dashed all the way towards Hawkeye. Feeling that the opponent's momentum has changed, Hawkeye is waiting with his sword in full force. In his opinion, the best way to crack is to dodge the moment the opponent hits and then counterattack, just like a matador. But Diamante would not be unaware of the weaknesses of his moves. At the moment of approaching, he shouted, "Army flag!" A stance swayed away from him. The surrounding balance was instantly broken, and the ground became like cloth. Hawkeye was no exception, and was thrown off balance by the sudden combination of punches. He stumbled under his feet, unable to avoid Diamante's bullfighting scepter. Barely touching the horn with the sword, Hawkeye was pushed back by Diamante. The other party has no plans to stop, and seems to be taking this to send Hawkeye out of the ring. After analyzing the situation, Hawkeye made a plan to break through from the air. Press the sword body hard, and the powerful reaction force makes the eagle eye bullet fly into the air. Diamante didn't even watch Hawkeye escape, taking a piece of paper from the cloak he picked up. The piece of paper quickly turned into a hammer and hit Hawkeye's crotch, while the bullfighting scepter turned into a snake sword and wrapped around Hawkeye's right foot. A man has 3 legs, the middle and the right, which one to keep? That's the question. Opponent is a bit unreasonable, and is also a cat in the crotch. This time, even Hawkeye can't solve it.